Monday to you, and welcome. Bill Michaels Show on the air. Good to have you after a lot jam-packed into a weekend. Tell you about that coming up. If you want to get a hold of us, it is easy, 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. You can find us via the phone. You can find us on Twitter at Bill_Michaels, at Bill_Michaels. And back in the saddle is our one Ben Kenny, producing the program at Benzie Kenny. Ben, so they lost your luggage?
Yeah. A lot of great stories to tell, Bill. It's good to be back. I'm running on 2 hours and 20 minutes of sleep. I got in at about 2 a.m. and hosted the morning show today. So we're battling through the day. And my golf clubs are sitting on the tarmac in Charlotte.
Stop. Really?
Yep.
Oh, my goodness. And for you, that's like, that's just like the death knell.
Oh my, it's horrible. I feel like my son is there. I feel anxious like it's my child. I don't want to turn this into the whole airplane thing, but American Airlines is a disgrace.
I have taken American before, and they've always been pretty good to me, but you have had some really bad experiences with heading to the East Coast via American. Now I'm going to Florida in April for about 5 days, and I'm taking Southwest, and I have not taken Southwest in a while because of a bad experience I had on Southwest. So I'm giving them another chance, but I'm a little anxious about that too. So, but American Airlines has not treated you well over the last few flights, from what I understand.
No, and CLT over there in Charlotte, not the greatest airport to spend 6.5 hours in, but it had to be done.
Charlotte's not a huge airport. It's a little bit bigger than Milwaukee, right?
It's not that big, but the human traffic, I think, is probably too much for the infrastructure they have there.
Yeah, that's a layover destination for a lot of flights.
It is for American. It's their hub. But I'm back, Bill. Frankly, I wished I crossed my fingers that we would get Rodgers news while I was gone. I wanted it so bad.
There's new thought today, and so yet another guess, maybe is the best way to put it. Another guess is out there as to what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers, and another theory has now popped up this morning, and I'm kind of like, okay. Oh, by the way, the Saints just signed Derek Carr. Breaking news, the Saints have just signed Derek Carr. And so the rumor that's out there, we got to talk about this here. The Saints have just signed Derek Carr, and there is the prevailing thought, that the reason Rodgers has not announced he's coming back is because him and his people are accepting what the deal is, at least from what I understand, that it's not about whether Rodgers comes back to Green Bay. It would be how much money the Packers are willing to eat. See, there was some stuff in this contract that I was not. I'm hearing different things today than what I've heard in the past about how much money the Packers could eat or not eat, and how much the Jets were willing to pay, because if the Jets brought on Aaron Rodgers for the full $60 million, then that would have to eliminate 4 or 5 significant players for the Jets, and they didn't want to do that because Rodgers is due the 58.2, and would he then either take a pay cut or throw in voidable years to push it down the road, so that way they can just cancel out portions of the contract, and all that kind of stuff. And this is not about whether or not Rodgers is going to make the announcement it's coming back. It's whether or not Rodgers is taking the trade to the Jets. And the Jets were willing to wait on Rodgers. Meanwhile, Derek Carr and his camp over the weekend basically had hinted at the fact that they weren't going to wait much longer. And apparently they're not. So Derek Carr has now will sign with the New Orleans Saints. They have reached a deal, and he will sign with the Saints. We're waiting on another domino to fall. That is what's going to happen by tomorrow with Lamar Jackson. You can't imagine that the Baltimore Ravens are going to let him walk away. They'll probably franchise him, but the franchise tags are due tomorrow. What's going to happen with Daniel Jones? They're trying to work out a deal in New York because they would like to. They would like to franchise tag Saquon Barkley and sign Daniel Jones, but those two sides are still relatively apart. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be the next domino to fall via the market with quarterback play. If he is indeed gone from San Francisco, which all indications are that he will be. And again, the breaking news is that that Rodgers is still waiting and sitting there. And the reason that we're pressing this now up again, the angst that is now starting to be, unless there is a lot of stuff, you would assume there is, but unless there's a lot of stuff that's lurking below the waterline on all of this, is that Rodgers is kind of holding everybody up. The Jets need to make moves. They need to, and the Jets met again over the weekend with Derek Carr. So coming out of that meeting, I guess Derek Carr really got the sensation that, hey, they're not going to make a move until they figure out what Rodgers is going to do, and then I could be left on the outside looking in. So I better take what's out there. So Derek Carr has now come to an agreement with the Saints to be their quarterback. And Aaron Rodgers, we still wait for. Jimmy G is still out there. Daniel Jones is not reached an agreement yet with the Giants, and if the Giants franchise tag him, chances are they're losing Saquon Barkley. So there's a lot of ramifications. This is the reason when people say Aaron Rodgers has earned the right. He's earned the right, but teams have to make moves. Teams can't wait. You can say you want to just take your time and do whatever. Now, the ultimate would be if, and I say that in the sense of no decision really needs to change. If Rodgers says, I'm coming back, I want to play for the Packers, and the Packers want to have him back, then nothing's changed. They would just have to work out whatever kind of salary ramifications there would be for Aaron Rodgers to come back. But I think today's announcement that, and I've said all along that I thought 60% of me said Rodgers would be back with the Packers. But seeing that Derek Carr has went ahead and signed with the Saints now tells you that I think the trade possibility to the New York Jets is even more real and more significant than maybe what I even thought. So Carr going to the Jets, and now we wait for the next domino, and that next is announcement. And then to be coming back to either Green Bay, they have traded him to New York, one of the two. What the Jets are trying to do is to get out of this without, one, paying that full salary, two, without giving up a ton and significantly hurting their team down the road in case this doesn't work and they don't win a Super Bowl. They still have talent that they can then rely upon other than Aaron Rodgers. And Rodgers, again, he was the guy that said he'll make a decision soon enough. And the reaction that has now come in, at least if you look over on, say, Twitter, reaction to Rodgers, is that there's a lot of people out there, fan base wise, that are tired of waiting. Like even New York fans, while they do have hope, are saying, what an incredible diva. Why can't he make an announcement? He is not only hurting the Green Bay Packers, he is hurting our team as well. And again, unless he has already got some type of a deal in place, or they are, kind of full steam ahead on a deal to make him a New York Jet, even the Jets fans are now tired of it. So it is getting down to crunch time, as we are a week and a day away from free agency. We are 24 hours-ish away, about 28 hours-ish away from franchise tags. And we got a lot going on, a lot churning in the NFL. Over the weekend, you saw the Bucs win streak come to an end. Close to a 20-point lead, just evaporates in the second half. Now, granted, at some point you knew they were going to lose, but a game at home, a 20-point lead evaporates. No defense, shooting goes cold, turnovers, ugly play, and it looked like they just were sleepwalking towards the end. And then finally they started to turn it on, but by then it was too little too late. Momentum had shifted, and the Philadelphia 76ers were starting to feel it. And sure enough, the Bucs go down with a loss. In the meantime, you've got the New York Knicks knocking off the Celtics last night in double overtime, which was a hell of a game. And the Knicks are starting to come on, sitting in the 5th seed right now. They're only a game back behind Cleveland to grab that 4th seed, one of the hotter teams in the NBA. But the Bucks, they turn right back around and they get a win yesterday over Washington on that ugly pink floor, and they knock them off, and they back to their winning ways. Still, in my opinion, the hottest team in the NBA and probably the best team in the NBA. But over on the other side, you've got arguments going on with the Dallas Mavericks. You've got last night Kyrie and KD facing off against one another. You got the Suns that are playing some good basketball, the return of Steph Curry. I mean, you got a lot going on in the NBA as you start to get to that stretch run to the postseason. And then the Badgers get a win. And some feel like the Badgers are either on the inside of the bubble or one win and they're in. I don't necessarily think that's true. We'll talk about it. You've got Marquette, who is the outright Big East champion now. So kudos to them. And by the way, I was in contact last night with Shaka Smart and the guys over there at Marquette. We might get Coach this week. If not, we'll definitely get him next week. But I know they're heading to New York for the Big East tournament, and they're going to try to get him on. So they had reached out, and we had said, yes, I'd love to get him. And we're just trying to get the timing of all of that. But would love to get Coach on the program. So hopefully we get a chance to talk to Coach Shaka Smart here either this week or next week before the tournament really gets underway. So we'll touch base then. So anyway, all of that going on because there's just a plethora of stuff happening, for lack of a better term. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. You want to find us, please feel free. Go ahead. You can also find us over on the Facebook fan page. Go to facebook.com/The Bill Michaels Show. You can watch the program there. You can catch us over there on YouTube. Go to YouTube and Bill Michaels Show on YouTube. You can find us on Twitch TV as well. Instagram, not Instagram. We're not live on Instagram, which I got to figure that out. But nevertheless, if you want to go to The Real Bill Michaels or The Bill Michaels Show on Instagram, you can find us over there. And so anyways, and don't forget the website, which is just thebillmichaels.com. It's a great way to track us down there as well. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at J&L Tire Service out there in Johnson Creek. You can give them a buzz right there at 94 and Highway 26. It's the Johnson Creek exit just north of 94. Great stuff there. Also, they have one on Boulder Road in Watertown. And they would vote in the area. They were voted the best tire dealer. So good stuff I've been telling you about them for a while. J&L Tire Service, and they handle everything from the small minivans for oil changes to the big rigs for major work on tractors, trailers, you name it, they can do it. And they have the facilities for it. And that is our friends at J&L Tire and Service Center, J&L Tire and Service Center. And they do great work in the community. Lyle and his staff are just fantastic people. And I can't recommend them enough. The breaking news of the day, Derek Carr has signed with the New Orleans Saints. The New York Jets just sitting there now, waiting to find out if indeed they're going to end up with Aaron Rodgers. We're going to talk about it when we come back. Hang in there. More of the Bill Michaels Show next. Ready. Welcome back. Good to have you. Bill Michaels Show. We continue on. The Jets now wait. Derek Carr has agreed to sign with the New Orleans Saints. Breaking news starting the show today. I mean, we were maybe 3 minutes into the show, and suddenly my phone starts buzzing, and sure enough, there it is. Derek Carr going to the Saints, which means the New York Jets are now waiting on. This would be maybe an indicator that the Packers and the Jets have worked something out to send Aaron Rodgers, the four-time MVP, to the New York franchise. And so we'll wait and see. Interesting article came out over the weekend. And Michael Silver had put this together. And as Michael Silver writes, as one of the high-level Packers sources put it to me recently, the days of begging Rodgers to return on his terms, which was essentially the organization's approach during each of the previous couple of off seasons, are over. If the 39-year-old quarterback tells his bosses that he wants to return and commit to a single-minded quest for a second championship, they're receptive. Great. Anything short of that, however, would leave them less than enthused. And I've said that all along. All along. If he comes back and he says, I'm ready to go, I want to do this, I want to run it back with you guys, I want to win another championship here in Green Bay, I think everybody's in. But if anything less, any prima donna, anything, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, I don't want to commit to this, I don't want to be the leader that everybody expects me to be, and then I'm paying to be, then the Packers are going to say, talk to you later. Talk to you later. You earn so much in the NFL. There's no doubt about that. You earn this level of respect. You earn this level of veteran considerism, all of that. But eventually, man, you guys, as Brian Gutekunst so directly put it, we expect something for the return on our investment. And they're investing a lot in Aaron Rodgers. A lot in Aaron Rodgers. So so that's the breaking news of the day, is that Derek Carr has moved on. He is not going to the Jets, and that he is he's going to go in a different direction. He's going to the Saints. Meanwhile, with the news coming out, our own Mike Clemens joining us on the hotline. Michael, how you doing, man?
Well, good. Here's one thing to back up Michael Silver's story. And Michael Silver's a longtime NFL writer. I've known him for 30 years, Sports Illustrated for many years. So those are pretty good sources. A year ago, over the weekend, I was waiting for Saturday morning and for Mark Murphy, the Packers CEO and president, to post his monthly blog that he puts on the team website. It's called Murphy Takes 5, and he takes questions from fans. And, in the middle of this story, his headline was, ticket sales are going up a little bit. The prices for tickets. And there was no mention of Aaron Rodgers. And you look back to a year ago at the same time, and the headline was, we want Aaron Rodgers back. So even Murphy's not even mentioning Aaron Rodgers' name in his column as the franchise awaits, his decision. And so I think that's accurate. It was a week ago tomorrow. We spent about an hour with Gutekunst in a conference room in a hotel across the street from the convention center where the combine was getting started. And the language had changed from the end of season press conference that he held. Because at that one, that's where I asked him, so you start off the season and then the guy fractures his thumb in the game in London against the Giants, and you go on a 5-game losing streak. Why wouldn't you start the backup and let the starter rest that for a couple of weeks and then make a run at the second half of the season? And his answer was, because we always want to do what gives us the best chance to win, which is kind of taking a shot at Jordan Love.
Right.
But, what he's saying is, I'd rather take a 38, 39-year-old Aaron Rodgers with a fractured thumb over Jordan Love as we went on with the rest of our schedule. And also, what they're paying people as well. That changed last week when he said Jordan Love is ready to play. Jordan Love is ready to be an NFL starter. Jordan Love needs to play. Now, if there's any scenario where Gutekunst and Murphy and LaFleur want Rodgers back this season, then you start talking up Jordan Love a lot, right? Because you're probably going to have to trade him. And he admitted that he's been had a lot of contact recently with Love's people, because it's like, all right, our guy's entering his 4th season. What's going on with Rodgers? When does our guy get a chance to play? And if not, there's a couple of chairs that are open there in the league, and maybe, we can get our guy starting for a team. So you would talk up Jordan Love, but an awful lot of the conversation pretty much slanted towards, we're waiting for Aaron Rodgers to decide. And when he decides, if he wants to come back to Green Bay, there's going to be a lot of conditions. It starts with restructuring his contract. Well, Rodgers is already
right.
He knows that would. But then, there's lots of things that they have to talk about in those conversations. Whether that means, Aaron, the roster's not going to look the way it did last year. We've got to make changes here. We're making changes there. Maybe we need you to show up in the off season. But I'd say the best guess right now is they're ready to move on. They're ready to move. I think they look at a guy who is struggling with his decision to want to play, or the little things, Bill. I mean, the guy throws 1,000 passes in a season, and I hate to keep on going back to it, but when you've got Randall Cobb wide open and you throw the ball downfield,
right,
because you think he's supposed to think that you think that, he's going to run downfield rather than just catch the ball for a first down, that's where they just start throwing out their pens and their playbooks and saying, what is it with this guy?
Right. Mike, let me ask you this. With Aaron Rodgers, you had mentioned that, they want him to come back and be all committed and all in. Okay, let's say there's 2 different levels to this. One is Rodgers calls Gutekunst today and says, hey, I see Carr signed. Look, I don't want to go to New York. I want to come back. I want to play. I'm all in. Man, I really want to run this thing back. I am so committed. I want to be there next week. I want to start working, blah, blah, blah. Do they bring him back?
Look at this. Understand this. As opposed to 21 and 22, Brian Gutekunst is now holding the Jordan Love card. So I think he believes we've got a kid that could start and make it respectable next season for us. So, why do I want Rodgers back at $59.5 million and then a restructured contract? And so, in other words, it's like, well, Aaron, let me hear from you that you're going to come to OTAs and you're going to do this, and that you understand that I'm taking back the roster now. And, Rodgers is going to have to sell them on coming back to Green Bay. I don't know if the door is closed on him, because I was just kind of going over the notes of the closed door meeting. And, Gutekunst was talking about things that Russ Ball can do to bring him back financially. Like, there is a plan there,
Yep.
And I also know that the team wants to make sure they handle this the right way. They're grateful for what Rodgers has done, and so they want to handle this the right way. They want to make sure that that player's essentially happy with whatever decision they come up with. But the thing that makes the difference is that they're saying with their conviction, the GM is saying, we got a quarterback. We've got Jordan Love. So if Aaron wants to retire and never play again, we're okay because we're prepared. We spent 3 years preparing that kid, and we can move on with number 10.
Okay, let's say Rodgers says, I want to come back, and the Packers say, the only way we're going to bring you back to us is if you do this, 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 and this. So in essence, Rodgers doesn't necessarily want to do it, but if he wants to play in Green Bay, he's going to kind of have to play by their rules. So if Rodgers is a little reluctant to do it, but does it kind of out of, okay, I don't want to go anywhere else, so I guess I'll go ahead and do that. I would think if he's not fully committed and that they have to tell him he has to do all this stuff.
Then it gets ugly, Bill.
Then it gets ugly. Yeah, so that's when
it gets ugly.
Yep. And remember, when you talk about they want to do this right, you're right. Because remember, it was only a couple of years ago that Rodgers called him onto the carpet publicly and said, this is an organization that doesn't treat you like a human being. You're nothing more than a piece of meat. You're a 30-second phone call. You're a commodity, and they kick you out. They don't care about us. So they got to do this right.
Clay Matthews. We played the tape of Clay Matthews saying,
right.
10 years, I'm on my way to the facility one day in March. I get a phone call. It was 10 years, and in 30 seconds they say, "Yeah, we're done.
Right.
Thanks."
Right. So he's trying to so Gutekunst and LaFleur and Murphy and everybody are all trying to make sure that they do this the right way, because they don't want to be the organization that was actually called out by Aaron Rodgers to say, we don't want to be what he says we were. You know what I mean?
And the other thing that's different is, when Ted didn't call back Brett, and Brett didn't understand why he wasn't getting called back, but McCarthy's calling him every couple of weeks and saying, "Hey, got to have a decision, got to have a decision." And Brett just said, "Fine, all right, I quit, I retire." "Okay, well, come on up, let's have a press conference." The difference in that situation is that Gutekunst has got a better relationship with this quarterback. This quarterback, in terms of his image in the state right now, with his, different kinds of things that he's done and locking himself in a dark room for 4 days and all that, there's a lot of people that are tired of this story, and they're almost willing to see what they've got with Jordan Love. I don't know if the backlash about what do you mean you're moving on from Aaron Rodgers would be as great as it felt back in 2008 with what do you mean you're moving on from Brett Favre?
Right. It's fascinating, Mike. Anything else you want to add to this because with Derek Carr now basically signing with the Saints, and that's being the breaking news of the day. The thought is, and I heard Dan Orlovsky, who has firmly been in the Aaron Rodgers will return to Green Bay camp. Dan Orlovsky even today said this extended period of time is not to allow Aaron Rodgers the time to figure out whether or not he wants to play football anymore. This is to allow Aaron Rodgers and his camp and the Packers and the Jets to all settle on what compensation there's going to be and how much of that salary the Packers are going to eat to be able to move Aaron Rodgers to the New York Jets, so the Jets don't only have to not sacrifice the future, but also they don't have to let a bunch of guys go just to fit Aaron Rodgers in under the salary cap. Do you believe that?
Just that. Right. I think that Derek Carr made the wisest choice. I'd rather work for the Saints organization than Woody and Christopher Johnson and the Jets. And so the Saints was probably a more desirable job. The Buccaneers job is not a bad organization to go with. Although I don't know how long Todd Bowles is going to be a head coach there. So that leaves the Jets and then the Carolina Panthers. Frank Reich, that's a good guy. So I do know this. When I talked to a longtime reporter that's covered the Giants and the Jets, she said Woody and Christopher want a quarterback. So, that's the vibe that they're getting, is that they even the stuff that their GM said to us, publicly about, we got Nathaniel Hackett in here and he thinks he could work with Zach Wilson. Obviously, for Rodgers, that's not a bad setup. If he can work with Robert Saleh as a defensive coordinator and head coach, and Nathaniel Hackett as an offensive coordinator, if Green Bay really lets him know, you know what, why don't you try New York City? That's probably his best option at this point if he wants to play another year.
Mike, great stuff as always. And if we hear anything in the next 24, I would expect some kind of a revelation. And now I know I expected it last week, but if you're Rodgers, you can't push this thing all the way up to free agency, can you? He's holding numerous teams hostage right now, right?
Yeah, there have been some scenarios actually if he doesn't contact them past free agency. And then what would the Packers have to do? At one point, there's some things where they talk about where they could, not make a move until June and to avoid, the cap hit and that type of situation. I would think that this would be the week, though, just knowing Aaron,
right?
And in terms of him, doing the right thing. It was March 8th when he made his decision last year, so you're 2 days away from that. But I really think that this is the week he's got to call Gutekunst and then tell him what his intention is if he decided that he wants to play again, and what he's willing to do if he wants to stay with Green Bay or if he's willing to move on to some other trade partner.
Hey, Mike, real quick before I let you go, and this was asked me over the weekend, and I'll ask you the same thing. I know Aaron wants to make sure he's mentally ready to go, physically ready to go, all that kind of stuff, but why do you need to take the absolute fullest amount of time to make a decision? do you think?
Because this is his life, and he's trying to write his own story, and he doesn't want to have any regrets. He's put in so much time, and even meeting with Goody, he backs off on his official statements to say, when the guy commits, there's nobody else that prepares like Aaron Rodgers in the off season, and this stuff that you're talking about, that Silver's saying, well, the team has gotten frustrated that maybe he hasn't given his all. I mean, he has, as best as I can tell, and the guy just becomes a physical freak, and the commitment it takes for him to get ready. Because I know when he showed up that mini camp that one day last year, he was ready, absolutely ready to go. And so they understand what Rodgers needs, but obviously they understand that maybe Rodgers' focus just is not what it needs to be, and maybe it would be best for him to have a change of venue. But I think we're now closer to that. I was right with you, because I thought that Murphy, wanted him back because that was their best chance to win. But I think now, as an organization, they're ready to move on and say, okay, Matt LaFleur, we're handing the keys to you. It's you and Love, and you got to figure out how to score more points this year.
Real quick, Mike, before I let you go, one of the things that you and I have both noticed, though, now I'm going to go with your statement. You said he came back in a mini camp. He was focused. He was ready to go. And he works out in the offseason and such. But you and I both looked at each other and said, he looked slow this season. He looked, to me, I don't think, at least personally, either Father Time got him, or he didn't work out as hard on his core and his legs like he had in the past. Remember a couple of years ago when he was having that tremendous MVP season, and they said, well, what changed for you? And he said, I worked out harder this year on my legs and my core than I ever have in my entire life, just to be able to be ready, because Mike McCarthy always said, when you lose your legs, then you've lost it as a quarterback. This year, you and I thought both of us thought he looked slow and he wasn't as elusive. Did he work as hard in the offseason on his legs and on his core, do you think? Or do you think Father Time's grabbed him?
It's Father Time. He's 39. That was 3 years ago that he was making that point, that he said that, what happened to Tony Romo wasn't his arm, wasn't even his back. It was his legs. And you saw that happen, I think, during a 17-game season last year as well. And you know what? The scouting department knows that. So even though Gutekunst, you're saying to him, can you do this financially? Oh, yeah, Russ has got a plan all worked out that, if Aaron wants to come back and he agrees to some of the things we asked for, how we can restructure this. We've already restructured, 5 or 6 other players, the latest, Aaron Jones. Yeah, we've got a plan to bring Aaron back financially. So they do have that contingency. But honestly, what the fans want, what they think is best for the Green Bay Packers, first Aaron's got to call and say he wants to play again. So that's waiting for.
Mike, great stuff, bud. And if we hear anything else, we'll let you know, and you let us know, and we'll kind of go from there. Okay.
You bet, Bill. Thank you.
All right, buddy. Talk to you later. That's our guy. That's our guy, Mike Clemens, on the ground, and kind of giving us his perspective. The breaking news of the day, if you're following us, and why is it significant? It is because the Derek Carr, the former Raiders quarterback, Derek Carr, has agreed to sign with the New Orleans Saints. Now, we knew that Derek Carr was waiting to figure out what was going to happen with Aaron Rodgers, so therefore he could make his decision. And the decision is drug out. Rodgers has still officially not, at least as far as we know, not gotten back to the Packers. Now, the last we heard, he had not. Over the weekend, nothing broke. Maybe something happened today that led Derek Carr to believe that the Jets are all in on Aaron Rodgers and they're working that deal, and something is going to break here in the next 24, 48 hours. So Carr felt maybe the best situation for him was to, kind of make the announcement he's going to the Saints. But reaction pouring in today is everybody believes this is now paving the way for Aaron Rodgers to possibly end up with the New York Jets, as the Jets maybe have moved on from Derek Carr. So that is where we stand right now, but it has been a fast and furious out of the gates kind of day. 877-867-1670. Your reaction, I got a ton of it pouring in, so I want to get to all that kind of stuff coming up here shortly. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Potawatomi Hotel Casino. Go to paysbig.com. That is paysbig.com, and they've got all kinds of terrific stuff happening down there. Dream Dance Steakhouse back. They have got the 360 bar cranking. Bingo is back. Stay and play packages available. Go to paysbig.com. That is paysbig.com. More of the Bill Michaels Show next.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Good to have you back. The Bill Michaels Show. Continuing on. Hey, my buddy, Mikey Whitcomb. He is a tremendous realtor. He's a guy that actually got me my house a couple of years ago. And he's with Exit Realty. If you're looking for a realtor in the Milwaukee area, give Mikey a call. 414-243-1976. 414-243-1976. And not only is he tremendous, he's a biker, he's a vet, all that kind of good stuff. But he's a really good guy and kind of no nonsense, almost too no nonsense, you know. Not your typical businessman. He's just a good guy to deal with, and busted his ass. I think we ended up looking at 14 houses before I finished selling on this one. He was with us the entire step of the way. So get a hold of my guy Mikey Whitcomb. 414-243-1976. Get a hold of him. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. You want to hit us up, feel free. Again, 877-867-1670. Give us a shout. We want to hear from you. Let's see here. The Fast and Furious, by the way, the breaking news of the day, Derek Carr signing with the New Orleans Saints, which leads you to believe that either he got tired of waiting for the Jets to make a decision or the Jets have made a decision. One of the two. So you're kind of waiting to see what the other shoe is going to be. We know that Aaron Rodgers, at least as of right now, publicly has not made an announcement as to what's going to happen. But we know that you're coming pretty near crunch time before it's all said and done. So you're kind of waiting to find out if Rodgers has indeed made some type of a move or a call to the Green Bay Packers, and maybe the Packers do or do not feel, depending on what happens, as to whether or not they feel like he's all in or not. In the meantime, Michael Silver over the weekend, he wrote an article, and this comes out of the National, also the Bally's group, as Michael Silver is part of that group now. In it says that now having entered the third consecutive offseason of Rodgers contemplating retirement or relocation while attempting to impose his will on player acquisition strategies, the Packers appear to be ready to hand things over to Jordan Love. That is not so much because they believe Love can continue their unprecedented 3+ decade streak of first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback play, though the coaches say he has greatly improved from his choppy first couple of seasons. But more significantly, the Packers are exhausted. The term is exhausted by the combination of Rodgers' high-maintenance persona and what they perceive to be his low commitment to leadership over the past 12 months. Now, remember, Brian Gutekunst said that Aaron Rodgers has been more of a leader the last year than he has been in a while. So to say that the Packers are kind of exhausted with the high maintenance versus the lack of leadership, I don't know if I necessarily go wholeheartedly in on that. But Silver said, as one high-level Packers source put it to me recently, the days of begging Rodgers to return on his terms, which was essentially the organization's approach during each of the previous two off seasons, are over. If the 39-year-old quarterback tells his bosses that he wants to return, he's committed to a single-minded quest for a second championship, they're receptive. Anything short of that, however, not happy about it, which explains General Manager Brian Gutekunst's much dissected comment during his combine press conference, saying that, quote, when it comes to Aaron Rodgers, you got to make sure he's the right fit before determining his future with the franchise. The Packers believe that Rodgers somewhat checked out on them after signing the 3-year, $150.8 million contract extension last March. Remember, Rodgers was the guy that got pissed when it was reported it was 3 years, $150 million. No, it's not. No, it's not. Yes, it was. It was. It was just, he did give them some salary cap relief, but that's exactly what it was. He hated being questioned there. 2 days later, Green Bay traded Devontae Adams away, who was approaching unrestricted free agency, to the Raiders. The Packers ended up drafting 3 receivers, signing a veteran in Sammy Watkins. Rodgers, however, skipped all the voluntary offseason programs. Not the first time that he had done so, but still a rarity for him. Whereas the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, made a point of hosting receivers for informal throwing sessions at in Texas before the OTAs. Rodgers elected to just basically let Cobby coach him up. So a lot of angst in, I guess, I don't want to say finger pointing, but basically saying, look, the commitment has to be there. And if it's not there, then there's no sense. There's no sense in it. 877-867-1670. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll get to the phone calls. Tyler's on the line. We got emails to get to. We got reaction coming in on the Facebook fan page. Derek Carr is going to the Saints, which leaves the New York Jets right now scrambling. They are trying to get Aaron Rodgers in the fold. Don't know if they're going to get him or not, but at least that's the perception. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at the Social House, Haus, on Lisbon Road. Menominee Falls was there over the weekend, had a tremendous celebration for Jennifer, who has been running the Fisher House for us since its inception. And Jennifer has moved on. She's moved to a higher position within the VA. So we're going to have a new house person coming up here relatively soon. But we had a great time at the Social House, great breakfast. And yes, I even posted the pictures, free pancakes yesterday. Loved it. Bloody Mary, free pancakes, nothing better. Had a good time over there. So stop in and see Dan Dell and the whole staff. Social House, West Lisbon Road, Menominee Falls. More of the Bill Michaels Show next.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
One of the worst things that you can hear, you have cancer. The worst is when you hear the words, your child has cancer. When a child is diagnosed with cancer, it changes their world. Sometimes they can't even do things that they really love, like playing soccer, riding a bike, going to prom, attending school. Children with cancer spend a lot of time away from others. I'm in the hospital, treatments, tired, nauseous, and they feel isolated. That's where Special Spaces Wisconsin steps in. They provide these children with a special space where they can not only sleep, but they can play, they can heal, they can spend time away from the challenges of their illness. It's a customized bedroom designed just for them. How about a princess castle or pirate ship or a sports themed bedroom? They transform that child's existing bedroom into a place that only he or she can imagine. A place for them just to be a kid. This effort is done with teams of dedicated volunteers and sponsors, just like our friends from Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin and all the community partners. If you'd like to find out more or to donate, go to specialspaces.org. That is specialspaces.org.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back. Good to have you. The Bill Michaels Show. Rocking on. 877-867-1670. You want to hit us, please feel free. Go ahead and do so. We've got to the breaking news of the day that continues, and that is Derek Carr is now off to the New Orleans Saints, making his decision to go to the Saints and not wait for the Jets. Is this an indicator that the Jets have now reached some type of an agreement, or at least are deeper in talks with the Green Bay Packers to acquire Aaron Rodgers? Don't really know, but that seems to at least be leaning in that direction by many indications that are on the outside looking in. Let's go to the phone calls. Let's go to Tyler listening to us in Waukesha. Tyler, how you doing today, man? What's up?
Doing good, Bill. How's it going?
I'm doing great. What's on your mind?
Oh, not much. I was just calling based on obviously everything that's happened this morning. Do you think there's the off chance that there isn't a deal in place and the price has gone up to acquire Rodgers?
That's very possible. Absolutely. That, maybe Derek Carr just didn't want to wait, so he left. He went ahead and signed, figuring that maybe the Saints might be a better option. And that could then, in essence, if there is no negotiation right now between the Jets and the Packers, that could send up the price significantly, knowing that the only thing that's left on the market really is kind of Jimmy Garoppolo, unless Lamar Jackson all of a sudden gets franchise tagged and then traded away or something to that effect, which contractually, I don't know if they necessarily can do that. But that being said, that means that you would have to figure out something for Aaron Rodgers of more significance, I guess. You're probably right. That it?
All right. Yep, that was it, Bill.
All right, buddy. Appreciate it, man. Thanks so much. He drops off. You get on board. 877-867-1670. 877-867-1670. If you want to hit us up, feel free and give us a call. 877-867-1670. Yeah, I can't remember if you can then franchise somebody and then turn around and trade them away. I can't remember if you can do that or not. We went through this last year when they were talking about Devontae Adams and compensation for Devontae. And I remember all of that going through all of that.
They cannot.
I didn't think so. So Lamar,
because they're not technically on the active roster.
Correct.
They're a free agent bound to a team.
Right.
That's what I found.
Okay. So yeah, Lamar Jackson would be the only other guy that would be out there if indeed he makes it. But now they could always sign him and then trade him. And then maybe the Jets will be interested, but yeah, it's and as Tyler puts it, maybe this puts the Packers in the driver's seat for even more compensation from the Jets. But the Jets have a concern about, one, how much they got to give up, and two, about paying Aaron Rodgers his salary, because that would mean they would have to lose 3 to 4 significant pieces of their team and not be able to afford to bring them back. So they would have to start making cuts. So how much do you want to diminish your team by bringing in the quarterback who may or may not be committed beyond this season? And so there's a lot of what ifs to all of this. So again, the breaking news of the day, Derek Carr has tentatively, he's agreed to a contract with the New Orleans Saints, and it looks like he's off to the Saints. And that means that the Jets are left kind of holding the bag, unless, of course, behind the scenes, there is a deal that is close to being reached between the Packers and the Jets to send Aaron Rodgers to New York. That's where we're at. All right, stay tuned. Boy, first hour was fast and furious. Hang in there. A lot more to get to. More of the Bill Michaels Show coming up right after this.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, Wisconsin kept its hopes alive for the NCAA tournament last night with a 71-67 win at Minnesota. Badgers overcame a 7-point second-half deficit to finish off a sweep of the Gophers. Stephen Crowell and Tyler Wall combined for 42 points, 14 rebounds. Chucky Hepburn had 12 points, all in the second half, including a huge three-pointer with 47 seconds left to give Wisconsin a lead it would not relinquish.
I just saw I was able to create space, and I've been practicing that move and that shot all week, so I kind of feel like that was going in no matter what.
Wisconsin now going to switch its attention to the Big Ten tournament, where they're going to be a number 12 seed. They'll face Ohio State on Wednesday night in Chicago. Turning to the Bucks, they had their 16-game winning streak ended on Saturday, but started what they hope is another run with 117-111 win over Washington last night. Giannis Antetokounmpo had his fourth triple-double of the season, scoring 23 points, dishing out 13 assists, grabbing 10 rebounds. Javon Carter had 20 points off the bench. The win moved Milwaukee's lead for the top spot in the East, 1.5 games on Boston. They're going to be in Orlando tomorrow.
You're worth so much more. Have you ever had the choice to accumulate wealth or go into debt? Let's play Would You Rather. Would you rather have $190,000 in total compensation or be $29,000 in debt? That's the choice between paying for a bachelor's degree that might not even land you a job or an apprenticeship with Liuna that will lead to job security, a pension, stability, and a lifetime of great wages. You're worth so much more. Go to liunawisconsin.org/join to learn how to accumulate wealth instead of debt.
Well, the wait continues on Aaron Rodgers, and a decision on whether he's going to play next year or retire. Said last week a decision would come soon enough. Green Bay expecting one prior to the start of the free agency period, which gets going March 15th. And the Brewers, 6-1 losers to Seattle yesterday in Cactus League action. Team is off today. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil, print.
Welcome back. Good to have you. What a weekend it was and a fast start to the program. Breaking news today: Derek Carr is signing with the New Orleans Saints, and that may lead you to believe that maybe the Jets have some sort of a deal in place with the Green Bay Packers to acquire Aaron Rodgers, if indeed Rodgers amenable to being traded. So now you wait and see. If you want to get a hold of us, by all means, give us a shout, 877-867-1670. You want to hit us up on Facebook, on the fan page, on the live stream. Plenty of ways to get a hold of the program. You can also email the program, thebillmichaels@gmail.com. Let's get back to the phone calls. Hector listening to us in Alaska. Hector, how you doing today, man? What's going on?
Well, I'm doing pretty good. I work for FedEx, so I'm out here enjoying the fog in La Crosse.
Oh, boy.
In the La Crosse area. So I am actually married into a Packer family, but originally I'm a Ravens fan. I didn't really watch football till I was 10, and my family's Vikings fan. They said we bleed purple, and I couldn't succumb to a life of being a Vikings fan, so I became a Ravens fan. And I've heard that the Ravens may be looking to give Lamar the non-exclusive franchise tag, which would give them the opportunity to match any offers that another team could give him.
Mm-hmm.
So like he'll pretty much be open to the market, and they can either match or trade for 2 first-rounders. So I've been hearing more and more that that's kind of picking up traction. So they may give him that tag and then end up trading him away. But I don't. If anything, I think it kind of solidifies the fact that Rodgers is probably staying in Green Bay, but I've kind of thought that since the beginning. So that's pretty much it. I just heard you guys talking about Lamar and what could possibly happen, so I figured I'd...
No, I appreciate it. Thanks so much for listening and for giving us a buzz. 877-867-1670. Now, I do not put it past the Baltimore Ravens to say go out and find a deal, and if you can, great. If you can't, well then you're going to kind of come back and do what we want you to do. It's when it comes to Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, look, I think Lamar Jackson is a hell of a talent. I just don't know for what Lamar wants. I mean, the problem is that the Cleveland Browns screwed this whole thing up by giving Deshaun Watson basically what he wanted. and giving him a fully guaranteed deal and making that thing just incredibly dumb, for lack of a better term. And is Lamar Jackson worth what Deshaun Watson's getting? Absolutely. Absolutely. He's that good. He's a hell of a player. But I can't imagine that. I can't imagine that that's what Baltimore believes as far as a running quarterback and the ability to get hurt. And I don't think they want that. So I think he could be right that they could say, go find a contract. If somebody's going to guarantee you the money, maybe we'll match that. Maybe we won't. And maybe they'll get compensation for it. Who knows? But apparently, at least according today to what I heard, is that Lamar Jackson is not budging off of the fully guaranteed $260 million asking price. Fully guaranteed. And apparently the Ravens are going, no, not going to happen. So they have not been able to come to any kind of an agreement as of yet. 877. Yeah, go ahead.
Maybe we could get Hector to FedEx my clubs from Charlotte.
True. If Hector's listening, maybe he can track down those clubs for you.
I have a high place correspondent for the show has also pointed out that American Airlines is labeled AA, meaning they are run by drunks. So
allegedly,
that's where we are.
Allegedly,
yes.
We don't want to end up on a Pat McAfee show being sued by everybody. So allegedly. Oh, good God.
Actually, I believe their former CEO does have multiple DUIs or has been convicted of it.
Okay.
So
well, maybe there is. I have not dug into the depth of drinking with the CEO or the COO of the airline company, but I'll take you at your word for it. You tend to study.
My clubs are in Charlotte, Bill. It's
right?
Unbelievable.
I know. It's I get it. I can't believe that American Airlines, listening to this program as they fly overhead, I know they listen. I can't believe that they have not said we need to expedite one Ben Kenny's clubs to Madison, Wisconsin, to be able to get him back on our good graces. Not that they could at this point, but at least to appease you so your baby's home and safe. Because short of maybe a left arm, that might be the next closest thing that you have as far as caring for something, for an object of some type. Correct?
Yeah, it's close.
Just
I don't know how badly I need my left arm.
Then again,
or it controls my microphone.
Maybe
I need my left
but
arm.
maybe they call you and they say, you know what? Not only did we lose him, but we left him on the tarmac and a plane ran over him. So what we're going to do is buy you a complete brand new set of clubs. Maybe this works out in your favor.
There's a problem, though.
What's that?
Do you know what else is in that bag?
Oh, geez. Here we go.
My Crocs.
Okay, run that damn thing over 6-7 times. Maybe have a plane land on it, throw it into a propeller, get rid of it, chop the Crocs up. And then maybe you get I would take a brand new set of clubs over you getting your Crocs back any day of the week. Just so you know.
Crocs, man. Golf shoes
you can get, toothbrush.
Things of that nature.
Toothbrush. What do you got your toothbrush in your golf bag for?
Well, I checked the bag. I have toothpaste in there. It's the thing I could put, I couldn't bring it in a carry-on. So I put it in a pocket of my golf bag.
Oh, crap. Good God. Crocs in a golf bag. Maybe that's the reason they left him on a tarmac. They're just like, who is this guy?
There's a lot more in there, too, but I'll stop.
Oh, my goodness. 877-867-1670. 877-867-1670. Back to the phone conversation coming up here in just a second. Some news from Adam Schefter. Cowboys now have placed a franchise tag on running back Tony Pollard. He's going to get $10.09 million this upcoming season, which would lead you to believe that Zeke Elliott gone on the way out. There you go.
There's also some chatter, Bill. So the Titans have cut Bud Dupree, one of their good linebackers.
Okay.
There's some chatter they're shopping Derrick Henry.
You know, I had heard that was a possibility this year, that they might get something for him, just for the fact that they have had they've obviously been a good team with Derrick Henry, but they haven't been able to break through and bust through in the playoffs. So if they can get pieces for Derrick Henry, including draft choices, then that might be the direction that they would go. He's got a lot of miles on him. There's no doubt about that. And you only have so many hits in you as a running back. And maybe they saw something in him to where they said, hey, you'd rather trade him a year too soon than a year too late. And maybe they can get some pieces for him to kind of help, kind of perpetuate that offense forward. Might not be a bad move for the Tennessee Titans. And if you don't get anything, you still got him. So it might not be. From Craig, who says over on Twitter, said, I'm telling you, how sweet would it be to ship Rodgers to the Jets for Quinnen Williams and a 13th pick, maybe a first round next year. Boy, if you got Quinnen Williams, that would be huge. That would be huge. No doubt about it. Now, it depends on how good or not good Jordan Love is. So if Jordan Love is really not the real deal, then, you can bring in a lot of players and it's not going to matter a hill of beans. Let's go to Linda listening to us in Madison. Linda, how you doing today? What's going on?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Doing great. What you thinking today?
Okay, I'm thinking I have been a lifelong supporter of Aaron, and I feel at times people really kind of pick on him, and I don't know why. Derek Carr seems to be like a nice, level-headed person. As a quarterback, I don't think he's the best. I'm hoping and praying that Aaron will retire as a Packer. If he doesn't, you will see a blonde, 4'11" woman walking around Madison with a black band on her arm.
Oh.
Because I feel we need him to retire.
Well, I think, let me say this. And first of all, Linda, appreciate the phone call. I think first and foremost that Aaron Rodgers, regardless of what happens, will come back and sign that one-day contract and retire a Packer. So there is a technical loophole that you can use to do that. So, but I appreciate the loyalty that if Rodgers goes, she's going to walk around with a black armband. That's a fan. I like that. Sometimes you think with your heart. I think the heart would say you'd love to see him run it back and try to grab one Super Bowl, one more. I think logic tells you, yeah, it's probably time to move on. But I always say the caveat is there's two things at work here. One is you got to circle Jordan Love. Is he the real deal? Because if he's not, that's the reason the Packers would hang on to Rodgers. And secondly, if Rodgers isn't fully committed to coming back and doing anything and everything he needs and the Packers need him to do to be successful and really get this season off on the right foot, then that's Rodgers making a decision not to put the full effort into it. So he kind of makes his own decision. And if he's ready to come back fully and the Packers are ready to accept him fully, then the Packers may have another decision on their hands, and that could be to possibly trade away Jordan Love, if indeed they feel he's ready. And teams have been calling, say, about Jordan Love to be the next quarterback of their team. So there's a lot of ifs, ands, buts, whats type of thing going on, but it revolves around those two guys and decisions to be made, no doubt. But I like your passion. 877-867-1670. So the news came out a little while ago. Derek Carr signing with the New Orleans Saints. First of all, Christopher says, did New Orleans actually watch Carr's performance last season? Apparently not. Having a stacked O wasn't enough with a top back, along with guys that can actually catch the ball. Tony says, say it ain't so. Don says, news about Carr, and yet again, the media feels the need to include Rodgers in the story. Well, it does go hand in hand because that means Carr is no longer in on the Jets. Dan, you can say what you want. I mean, you can blame the media all you want, but come on, man. There is a story here. He said, Greg says, I thought it was Adams' MVP guy. Obviously some sarcasm there. Woody says 12 is not going anywhere but Green Bay, period. Book it. And I said all along that I thought Rodgers, if he's committed, will remain in Green Bay. If he's not, he won't. Paul says, I still say 12 is going to end up in Vegas. Remember, 17 and 12 put up 2 13-win seasons with a good run game, lousy special. But Paul, aren't you also one of the people that said, don't worry about it without Devontae Adams, the Packers are 7-0? Just thought I'd throw it out there. And remember, the Raiders last week said they're not interested. Tad says, start calling the JETS Jets right now. Trade 12. Let's get this thing over with. And Michael says, tired of it. As usual, waiting for Rodgers and his diva attitude to make a decision. What's tomorrow? What's the next day? What's the day after that mean to Aaron Rodgers? Is suddenly he going to get the epiphany that he wants to come back and play football and be committed to football, or just go work out or not work out? What the hell is he waiting for? And Randy says, enough drama with Rodgers. Time to part ways. Give Love an opportunity. I'm just sick of Rodgers. Not so much banking on Love and the future. 877-867-1670. Hit us up. Got a lot more. The Bill Michaels Show. Opinions flying in. Our good friend Dwayne at Cover It All up in Wausau. Go to dwaynescoveritall.com. Wisconsin's best canvas, upholstery, boat cover provider, office furniture, gym equipment. You need it covered. He can do it. All you got to do is get a hold of our buddy Dwayne. DUANES, dwaynescoveritall.com. That's dwaynescoveritall.com. And he is by far the best in Wisconsin. It's the guy that I trusted with my boat a while back, and Kristen trusted him with some chairs, some antique chairs. Fantastic job. 715-870-2119. 715-870-2119. That is dwaynescoveritall.com.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Jeff, what was the final straw at home that had you call Pella?
When I walked into my son's room and there was frost on the hardware on the inside of the house. My wife was getting upset with the drafts coming through the doors. That was it. Putting new windows and doors in your home is a big decision. With all the options that Pella has, everybody on your staff has done a great job of making a really difficult decision super simple. And I can't wait to have them in my house.
Order today and get 0% interest for 48 months. Visit PellaWI.com today.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Time this past weekend, go see our friends at Sunset Grill Pewaukee. They've got bingo out there tomorrow, as a matter of fact. Sunset Grill on Pewaukee Lake. Call them 262-696-4578 on Prospect Avenue. Just right there on the lake. As soon as the weather breaks, the deck's going to open up. The docks are going to go back in. The boats can roll right up. Check out Sunset Grill on Pewaukee Lake. Again, they have a bingo coming up tomorrow night. Great food, a lot of fun out there. Huge wine selection now, too. So if you want to sit there and do the sip and stare off into the sunset, that is a fantastic place to do it. Again, that's Sunset Grill on Pewaukee Lake. They'll spend hours on it here. And there you go. Welcome back. Good to have you. The Bill Michaels Show rolling on. Was that you, Ben? Was there something happening?
It was a slippage.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Just checking. I wasn't sure if there was like breaking news that I needed to know about. Just making sure. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. Coming up after the top of the hour, we have got Brad Spielberger, Pro Football Focus, going to be joining us. Also, Zach Rosenblatt. Zach works in New York and covers the Jets. We want to get his perspective on this and what today's breaking news means. And for those of you that are just tuning in, the breaking news of the day, former Raiders quarterback Derek Carr has signed with the New Orleans Saints. Now, I know some will say, well, what does this have to do with the Packers? Well, remember, he was being courted. He met again this past weekend with the Jets. And for all intents and purposes, had a really good meeting. But after leaving that meeting, decided that it might be in his best interest to go ahead and sign with the Saints. And what does that mean? Does that mean that he just felt that the Saints were going to be a better fit? Or did that mean that the Packers and Aaron Rodgers are making arrangements to send Aaron Rodgers over to the Jets? Because that's been the prevalent thought in this postseason, or in this offseason, I should say. 877-867-1670. You can hit us up, 877-867-1670. Emails to get to as well. Other stuff today, by the way, the Bucs lose over the weekend and then turn right back around and win again. John Morant, for those that did not see, posted a live video on Instagram in which he was at a club and in his hand what appeared to be a gun. And he's been, quote, he's working on himself, they're saying, but basically he's been at least imposed a 2-game suspension by the Memphis Grizzlies. But the league is now investigating him because this is apparently not the first time in public he has brandished a weapon. Between him and some of the other guys that he hangs out with, apparently this has been something that is now ongoing. He says, quote, I'm going to take some time away to work on better methods of dealing with my stress, which we all know is a giant crap statement. Well, what does stress have to do with taking a gun to a nightclub? I don't know. I don't know if that's a stress, like a squeezy stress doll or something that you need to take a gun to a nightclub, or you're just trying to gain street cred. It's all crap. It's a lie. It's just basically a way to try to soften the blow to make him look as if he's working on himself. In other words, they're going to tell him, you can't do this. And if you feel the need, you have to go to a club with these guys and brandish a weapon, then you need to quit hanging out with these guys. You know? So there you go. So that and this, you got the Brewers playing over the weekend, and they continue on. They're off today. They've got a game with, I think it's Great Britain, if I'm not mistaken, coming up on Wednesday. You got the World Baseball Classic going on, so you got a few players off doing that. In the meantime, the Brewers over the weekend, a lot of strikeouts. Not happy about it, but there's a lot of talk about where they're going to be come the trade deadline and whether or not Corbin Burns even remains with this team come the trade deadline, what they get for him in return, how much they're relying on Garrett Mitchell and company and the young guys to be able to hit the ball, because Otherwise, where is this offense going to come this season? Whether or not there's even optimism for this season as Brewers fans get set to embark on yet the 2023 baseball season, where they're going to be. And some people say, well, I feel they're the best team in the division. I don't see it, but if some others do, then convince me, I guess. So we got that. You got the Badgers getting a win, and they knocked off Minnesota. Good win. They fought hard against Purdue. Don't forget, Minnesota was coming off of a big win over Rutgers. So Minnesota felt a little bit of juice, but the Badgers go in, took care of business in the second half. They started going inside. They get a win. Now where does that put them when it comes to the bubble and what they need to do in the postseason tournament to be able to find themselves in the NCAA tournament? In the meantime, Marquette win. Marquette closes out, and they end up being the Big East champions. Open to talk to Shaka Smart this week. UW Milwaukee going into the Horizon League tournament, trying to get themselves a win. And if they can, then they're going to find themselves in the tournament. So there's a lot of stuff going on there. So a lot of stuff happening in the area as we head towards the March Madness portion of the program. And not only in basketball, then you get back into baseball, you get into the end run for the NBA season, and you're in the heat of not only the off-season free agency for the NFL, but then you start ramping up towards the NFL draft. So a lot of things going on right now. This is our buddy Steve. It says, happy Monday. I agree with you that this may finally be the week that the saga ends. I was wondering if the possible trade to the Jets is being held up by the monetary situation with Rodgers. Also, with Carr signing with the Saints, did the price tag for Rodgers just go a little bit higher? I highly doubt that the Jets would part ways with Quinnen Williams. He's the anchor of that defense, and I think that they would be more willing to part with another draft choice or two than send Williams to Green Bay. That I agree with. I would love to see it happen, but I can't imagine that they would turn around and say, hey, Quinnen Williams, we're going to send you and a first-round draft choice over to the Packers with a conditional second to see if Aaron Rodgers can come here. I couldn't imagine that. Steve, I would agree. I figured they'd probably want to give up an unproven, a draft choice rather than give away a proven player. But, we'll wait and see. But to answer your question, does this mean that there is now more capability for Aaron Rodgers as a trade potential to garner more in the market? The only way I think this would be is if the Jets still have not really reached any kind of an agreement with the Packers, and the Packers are still waiting to hear from Aaron Rodgers and his commitment, and Derek Carr just didn't want to wait anymore, then yes, suddenly this makes Aaron Rodgers even more valuable. But if Derek Carr met with the Jets this weekend and the Jets said, man, we really like you, we think you'd be a good fit, but we believe we have a deal in place with the Green Bay Packers and there's something that's already on the table, should Aaron Rodgers agree to it, then no, I don't think anything's going to change. I think Derek Carr then saw the writing on the wall and figured, I'm going to go ahead and move on. There's no reason for me to sit here and hang out anymore when I know that the Jets have a deal with the Packers, so I'm going to go ahead and sign with the New Orleans Saints. You see what I mean? So it just depends on what's going on behind closed doors. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. You want to hit us up, feel free. Let's see here. We've got some stuff over on the live stream. I think if Aaron goes to the Jets, it will work out for him just as badly as it did for Favre. And that is from Andrew. This is from RJ. This is from RJ this is from Mark, who is responding, who says, I think Aaron Rodgers off to the Jets would be a mistake for Aaron Rodgers to end his career somewhere else. Does he not realize the best chance to win for him personally is still in Green Bay? It's a system he knows, it's language he knows, it's players he knows, rather than runoff. And do you think Devontae and Derek Carr can maintain a long-distance relationship? That's from Mike. No, I don't. I think they're still friends. But no, I don't think so. John says Drama Queen Rodgers is going to drag this out as long as he possibly can. Then this one's from Michael, says professional teams do a ton of background checks and even have private investigators look into situations. So in any professional sport, none of these athletes are gangsters. They wouldn't make it. going back to the John Morant story. You know, it's just when guys there's something about when guys get a lot of money and they get the guys hanging around them, and sometimes they're not hanging in a situation where the guys that are around them are good people. They're friends from the neighborhood, or they're guys that maybe just couldn't make it and they're glommers on, so to speak. You've seen it before where some of these guys will take you down. And I think it was, now Warren Sapp had his own issue, but I think it was Warren Sapp years ago that said, at some point you got to make the decision to cut away the bad people out of your life. Friends are not friends. That if they're truly happy for you, then let them be happy for you. But if they're there with their hand out and wanting to be a part of your fame and fortune as if it's theirs, then you need to cut them loose. Now, right after that, he ended up, in an altercation with a hooker in Las Vegas. He was on his own. It wasn't like he had a whole group of people there with him, but I don't know if I'd take a ton of stock in what Warren Sapp said, but nevertheless, he was right. And then Charles Barkley said the same thing, and he's had his own altercations in the past. But Charles Barkley said the same thing. Hey, if there's bad people in your life, man, friends or not, if they're going to be the ones that drag you down and they know they're taking you down, but you need to come down to their level again, and they want to criticize you for making money and being a success as opposed to losing yourself or what have you, well, maybe then they don't realize what it's like, and you need to cut them loose. Jason says, Bill, if you were Love, what would you do? Stay or leave? I can't stop thinking about the team's chances he is missing out on because he is waiting to hear what is happening with Rodgers. I think if Rodgers is coming back and I know the team's committed to him, then I want to be traded. Now, you don't have a lot of stance because you don't have anything to back it up, but there's got to be a team out there that's going to give you an opportunity. People know whether or not you can play. There's going to be people that, let's just say if you're the Minnesota Vikings, Za'Darius Smith has had a chance to see Jordan Love up close and personal. They'll call him in and they'll go, hey, Za'Darius, was Jordan Love the real deal or not? There's other players in the league that have had a chance to see Jordan Love, and they'll ask and they'll say, okay, this is what we had him evaluated at. This is where we thought he would go in the draft. This is what we thought of him. And where, those 9 pass plays that were complete against the Philadelphia Eagles, has he improved enough? Is his footwork good enough? Is his arm strength good enough? Is his accuracy good enough in those 9 passes to give you the belief that he's progressed, he's gotten significantly better, and we believe that he could lead our team? So all of that would then play into it. And like Charles Woodson said at Super Bowl when we had a chance to talk to him, he said, look, you want to find out how good he is, go to the guys that are playing against him on scout team. If Adrian Amos is a free agent, ask Adrian Amos. He'd know. He'll tell you how good he is. Merlin says, seems like if Carr knew the Jets were going to go with Rodgers, that would have been leaked. You would assume. Yes. 877-867-1670. Hit us up. More of the Bill Michaels Show coming up right after this.
Ready? This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back to the program. Hey, our friends over at the Four Seasons Island Resort. If you are in the culinary phase of your life and you got something going on, and they are adding right now to their culinary team and looking for summertime friends as well that want to work. They have job openings, and they also offer medical, dental, vision, 401k, PTO, plus perks and discounts, and they're adding to their culinary team. And maybe you're an aspiring chef and you want a paid internship. Either way, they're looking for it. Go to the Four Seasons Wisconsin at gmail.com and send them your name. The Four Seasons Wisconsin at gmail.com. If not, if you're looking for a terrific stay, or you want to take a corporate group to the Four Seasons Island Resort, maybe a golf outing to Pine Mountain Resort in Timberstone Golf Course, which is beautiful. Either place, start making your reservations now. Call our girl Barb. 715-938-5110. 715-938-5110. Make sure you use the promo code Michaels15. Michaels, Michaels15. Call and tell you heard it here. Again, 715-938-5110. She can give you all the information about hiring right now, and also if you want to book a stay at either resort, and make sure you use the promo code Michaels15, and you're good to go. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. You want to find us, do it. Again, the breaking news of the day, Derek Carr is going to sign with the New Orleans Saints. What does that mean? What does that mean for the quarterback position in New York and their quest for a quarterback? Because Derek Carr was certainly on their radar. Or is there some type of deal in place, or talks are heating up for the services of Aaron Rodgers to go to New York, or is Rodgers ready to make a decision? There's a lot of that stuff right now. Your thoughts on all? The Badgers get a win over the weekend. We know Marquette's in the NCAA tournament. They're heading to the East tournament, heading to New York. Meanwhile, the Badgers are going to be taking on Ohio State. And Ben, I want to get your opinion on this, but there is a large gray area. Some will say with the win and a really good showing against Purdue that maybe the Badgers have put themselves on the inside bubble rather than the outside bubble. I personally think they need at least a win, if not two, in the Big Ten tournament to put themselves into the tournament. Give me your thoughts.
I don't know for sure. Mike DeCourcy, who's going to join us this week, has had Wisconsin as the last four in for the last week, even with the Michigan loss and the Purdue loss. So then you add the Minnesota win to it. I feel like they need two, frankly, to get in, because other teams are going to bolster their resumes throughout their respective tournaments. And there are a lot of teams obviously fighting for the few spots. So if they get Ohio State, who's actually ranked metric-wise pretty high, although they stink, if they could beat them and then beat Iowa, those are two resume-boosting wins. And then we'll see. But that win against Minnesota was huge. If they had lost that, it's over.
Right. No, I would believe. Some even felt that if they lost that, they'd still get in. And I thought there was no way. But
well, they control their own destiny.
Right.
They can win out.
Right. No, I agree with
Ten,
you. I agree with you.
Then win the national title.
That's not going to happen. But you know what? You just get to the tournament. Who knows? Anything can happen in the tournament. We've seen it before. We've seen good runs. But as far as just the resume and the ability to get in at this point, I think the Badgers need at least a win, if not two. Here's the thing. If, say, other teams that are on the bubble start losing, then it makes it easy for the Badgers to find their way in. But I still think just resume-wise, you got to win a couple of games in the Big Ten tournament, don't you? You got to beat Ohio State in advance. I just believe that they got to get at least a win or two. I think 2 wins definitely puts them in. I think 1 win still keeps them squarely on the bubble. Do you agree, Ben?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I think so.
877-867-1670. 877-867-1670. You want to find us? Feel free. Again, 877-867-1670. Again, the when you talk about the Big Ten, the locks to get in, we assume Purdue, Indiana, Maryland, Northwestern, Michigan, Iowa, Illinois. You've got the Badgers staying put as one of those last teams in that field. It sounds pretty good when the alternative is dropping to the other side of the cut line. Now, the Badgers narrowly averted a terrific or terrible fate, I should say, with a big 3 from Chucky Hepburn late, and Greg Gard's team avoided the bad loss. But the Big Ten tournament looms, as they say, and a challenge for the team in Wisconsin. The Badgers are going to play the 12-seeded Ohio State on Wednesday. A loss to the Buckeyes would put Wisconsin in the clubhouse early in championship week with a 17-14 record. On the other hand, with a win, the Badgers would advance to the second round game, most likely against Iowa. And then if they could knock off Iowa, instead of getting into the clubhouse with a 17-14 record, it would be differently because if you get 2 more wins, you'd be 19-14. And then a third round loss would put you at 19-15. Most likely you would find yourself in the tournament. So the teams that are on the bubble also, Penn State, they say Michigan. Juwan Howard's team, 95 minutes of basketball on the road in Illinois and Indiana. All the Wolverines earned from the Odyssey was a couple of losses. And they say that could be one of the teams on the way out. Wouldn't you love to see, say, Michigan take a loss, the Badgers get 2 wins, the Badgers find themselves in the tournament, Michigan out of the tournament? Wouldn't that make you smile a little bit, Ben?
Oh, it would. The way Michigan lost last night was comical.
Yeah.
They were driving up in overtime in Indiana, I think down 1, and they passed it to Hunter Dickinson, and he wasn't looking.
Yes, right. The other teams that you got to watch now, if you're the Badgers, you got to watch USC, who's on the bubble. Arizona State is on the bubble. Oregon is on the bubble. Auburn's on the bubble. And, they play tough, and they play some really solid basketball. They celebrated their senior day with a 79-70 win at home against Tennessee. And Bruce Pearl's team could have reached the field of 68 even with a loss, but they've
dropped into the last four byes membership prior to defeating the Volunteers. And with wins over the Volunteers, Northwestern, Arkansas, Missouri, Mississippi State, the Tigers can perhaps head off to the SEC tournament with just a little bit more peace of mind. You've got Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, Memphis should be in out of the American. The Houston Cougars are probably going to be in. We know that, but the Memphis Tigers could be in. So you've got quite a few teams that are already locks. They're good to go. But you also have some teams that are sitting right there on the bubble. And, a team like, say Charleston finds their way in, or North Texas and the Mean Green find their way in. Suddenly teams like that start knocking out the bubble teams of the bigger conferences. So there's some bubble watch going on coming up here in the next week. So which is always a great time of year. I love this time of year. 877-867-1670. Hit us up. Got a lot more to get to. Still more of the Bill Michaels Show going on. We'll be back after this.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
It's here. Fillets, roasts, ground beef, a variety of meats delivered right to your doorstep by ScholeseyFamilyBeef.com. One of the worst things that you can hear, you have cancer. The worst is when you hear the words, your child has cancer. When a child is diagnosed with cancer, it changes their world. Sometimes they can't even do things that they really love, like playing soccer, riding a bike, going to prom, attending school. Children with cancer spend a lot of time away from others. I'm in the hospital, treatments, tired, nauseous, and they feel isolated. That's where Special Spaces Wisconsin steps in. They provide these children with a special space where they can not only sleep, but they can play, they can heal, they can spend time away from the challenges of their illness. It's a customized bedroom designed just for them. How about a princess castle or a pirate ship or a sports-themed bedroom? They transform that child's existing bedroom into a place that only he or she can imagine, a place for them just to be a kid. This effort is done with teams of dedicated volunteers and sponsors, just like our friends from Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin and all the community partners. If you'd like to find out more or to donate, go to specialspaces.org. That is specialspaces.org.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back. Good to have you. They extended it 0% for 48 months. That's our friends at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. And we all know that the weather, this time of year specifically, one day you're in the 50s like it was over the weekend. Then all of a sudden last night we have the ice that fell, and you've got colder weather coming and the possibility of a snowstorm or something to that effect on Friday, and then back into the 50s next week. It's goofy. And you want good windows, you want good doors, you want to keep the outside out and the inside in and all that kind of good stuff. You want your house, especially as spring starts to hit and, homeowners start to think about the possibility of either selling their home, buying a new home, and what have you. But if you start to look at value, curb appeal, the beauty of your home, inside, outside, that's our friends at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Go to PellaWI.com. That is PellaWI.com. Again, PellaWI.com. And they just have so much that you can afford that fits your budget. And whether it's the vinyl windows or the Impervia, which is just as strong, if not stronger than fiberglass, then there's the wood windows and doors. They have so much. And all you got to do is get a hold of them. Go to PellaWI.com or call them 855-PELLA-WI. That's 855-PELLA-WI. And that's Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin, and they're great people. And I'm telling you, I've been dealing with them for quite some time, and so much so that I believe in them that they're in my house. And the doors down in the great room, the patio doors in the back, the windows that I'm looking out of right now, all of them, Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. And I can't recommend them highly enough. Go to PELLA, PellaWI.com. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. This was from John. John says, hey, unit, what does this mean if the Jets do not get Aaron Rodgers? Do they suddenly go after Jimmy Garoppolo, or do they stick with what they have? Well, they had Mike White last year, who played well for them before he got all folded up and beat up. Obviously, they still have a quarterback on the roster they're not fond of, and it tells basically with them pursuing so hard at this point, at least, perceptually, that Aaron Rodgers it would be the guy. That means they would maybe pass on Zach Wilson, maybe just another first round pick bust for them when it comes to quarterback play. But Mike White, when you look at their depth chart right now, Mike White is listed as the top guy in their depth chart. They still have, if I'm not mistaken, I think Joe Flacco's a free agent. Yes, he is. I think Joe. Yeah, I was going to say I think Joe Flacco's a free agent. I think Mike White's even a free agent at this point, if I'm not mistaken. But they've got some decisions to make there. But other than that, they have Zach Wilson on their roster. Who knows? I mean, if Aaron Rodgers comes back and says, "Hey, I'm not only committed to this year, but next year or what have you," and just has this incredible attitude, maybe the Packers just end up trading away Jordan Love. And look, and I know people are pissed off because, oh my God, if they get rid of Jordan Love, it's an admission that he stinks and what a terrible pick. Look, it was a bad pick timing-wise from the beginning. It just was. They underestimated what Aaron Rodgers was going through with the knee injury. And I will say this, it incited Rodgers. It ignited something in him to come back and play incredibly well. They didn't win a championship out of it. But if you believe you've got a guy on your roster who really isn't the real deal, and you're able to trade him and turn that into additional picks that are going to help your team, I don't have a problem with it. The worst thing you can do is hang on to a mistake and force. How many years did we see guys, and I don't want to knock them because they're good people, but Dayton Jones and Nick Perry, no, they're going to be great. No, these guys, we're not going to give up on them. And you knew they weren't good. So you kept running them out there, and you're only as good as your weakest link. Well, my God, if your quarterback is your weakest link, do you really think you're going to win anything? If you don't believe that Jordan Love is the guy that can carry the team from here on out, and you've bolstered him up, you've given him those 9 passes in Philadelphia, people are now opening an eye to him, and he's got value, and you don't believe in him, then get rid of him. Then move on. That's the smartest thing you can do. Otherwise, you're going to give the guy an extension. You're going to pick up that 5th year or worse. And then you're going to say, well, no, he's our quarterback of the future. And then you're going to force him down the throat, not only the player, but the fans for the at least before you finally go, you know what? He really wasn't the guy. We should have stuck with our inner gut. You know what I mean? So if he is, great. I hope he is. But if he's not, then I don't have a problem with the move on. You know, we'd always said Ted was the guy that he'd get rid of a guy a year too early than rather than a year too late. And if it's a mistake, it's a mistake. You know, just like when everybody was happy they moved on from Amari Rodgers. He was a 3rd-round draft choice a couple of years ago. And they're like, boy, this is bad. Let's cut bait, man. You hate that they wasted a pick that high, but you appreciate the fact that they say, here's a mistake. We got to move on. 877-867-1670. 877-867-1670. Don't forget our buddy Brad Spielberger next, coming up here in just a little bit. We're going to talk with him for Pro Football Focus. He's coming up here in a few minutes. And then Zach Rosenblatt covers the Jets at the bottom of the next hour. So he's about 35 minutes away. So I'm looking forward to that too, as we get the New York Jets perspective as to what's going on. Maybe we get a little insight behind the scenes as to what's actually happening right now with the New York Jets. Now, the breaking news of the day is Derek Carr. He signs with the New Orleans Saints. So now maybe we find out a little bit more in depth as we go to New York to hear a little bit more. But Brad Spielberger coming up here just after the top of the hour. Stay tuned. Tom says, what if Love as a backup? He's a backup quarterback at best. I still believe if he was really NFL starter material, the Packers would have cut ties with Rodgers almost immediately. That's, again, what I said. And going back to what Mike Clemens said in the second segment of the show today, that Gutekunst was, he again stated that, you know, why did Aaron Rodgers continue to play with a broken thumb? And he said he gave us the best opportunity to win. Well, if Aaron Rodgers with a broken thumb is still by far better than an up-and-comer first-round draft choice in Jordan Love, that says something, doesn't it? Right? Good question. Susie says, do you think they're going to keep Keyshawn Nixon? I do. But I think right now what you're waiting for is to see. You have money. You have some money to spend. There's no doubt about that. But you got to see how much, even after Aaron Rodgers, whatever he does with his contract, whatever restructuring he's going to do, you're under the cap now. So to say you have to do it today, no, you don't have to do it today. You just have to do it before you get into free agency and you start trying to keep some of the guys around you that have been beneficial. But to answer your question, you got to keep Keyshawn Nixon, right? You got to. I mean, it's the first time in a long time you found a really legit returner. And you've been searching for ones for so long. Why would you get rid of him at this point? So, yes, to answer your question, I believe that they're going to keep Keyshawn Nixon. Yes. Unless, of course, now here's the other side of that coin. Say Keyshawn Nixon hits free agency and gets just a ridiculous amount of money to go somewhere else. Well, then the Packers have to think, because of their financial situation, that maybe they can't. And again, it goes back to what you have right now versus what you may think you may have if you have or don't have Aaron Rodgers. And if you don't have him, how much of that contract are you paying to the Jets or not? You know what I mean? So while Rodgers has the right to make his own decision, there is a trickle-down effect. There is a ripple effect for him not making a decision as of yet. Stay tuned. We got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Show. It's coming up, and it's coming up right after this.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the Bucks got back on the winning side of things last night, taking care of Washington 117-111. Giannis Antetokounmpo posted his Fourth triple-double of the season, scoring 23 points, dishing out 13 assists, grabbing 10 rebounds. Javon Carter had 20 points off the bench. Milwaukee's win, combined with a loss by Boston, leaves the Bucks lead for the top seed in the East at 1.5 games. They'll be in Orlando tomorrow. Turning to the Badgers, they finished out the regular season last night with a 71-67 win over Minnesota. Stephen Crowell and Tyler Wall each had 21 points and 7 rebounds for Wisconsin. Chucky Hepburn had 12. Now, Wisconsin's attention turns to the postseason of the Big Ten tournament. Badgers going to be a 12 seed, going to face 13th seeded Ohio State on Wednesday night. The winner will face Iowa on Thursday. Wisconsin needs to pile up at least a couple more wins to help their chances for an NCAA tournament berth. The Wall says it's not their focus.
We're going to take it how we've taken it all season, game by game. Our focus right now is going to be Ohio State because right now it's every game's our last game, so we got to focus on that. Go in there and get the job done.
Again, it'll be Wisconsin, Ohio State on Wednesday night at 5:30.
For nearly 40 years, ABC of Wisconsin has been helping men and women transform themselves into well-paid, productive members of their construction teams. Today, we have 2,000 active apprentices in 10 different skilled trade programs, and we educate individuals in more trades than anyone else. To get your career started, go to buildyourcareerwi.org or just search online for ABC of Wisconsin.
Well, everyone is still waiting on Aaron Rodgers. The Packers quarterback has yet to decide whether he's going to play another season or not. If he does play, it could be somewhere else. One landing spot could be the Jets, who lost out on their other veteran quarterback target this morning when Derek Carr signed with New Orleans. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heilprin.
Welcome back. Bill Michaels Show. We continue on a day that seems to be just flying by, for lack of a better term. He has got some stuff coming up on Pro Football Focus. They've got free agency out there. They've got contracts for players. And also, he was at the Combine. And joining us now on the hotline is our correspondent, if you will, that's been on the show numerous times. It's our buddy Brad Spielberger from Pro Football Focus. And you can find him at PFF_Brad and overthecap.com as well. Brad, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
We're doing well. So let's start, first of all, with the breaking news of the day, Derek Carr going to the Saints. So in your estimation, does this mean, do you feel like Rodgers is off to the Jets, or that suddenly the price for Aaron Rodgers just rose because Derek Carr is off the market?
Yeah, well, especially with the details just broke about 30 seconds ago. His contract is a 4-year deal for $150 million, 100 in total guarantees, looks like 70 fully guaranteed at signing. So, a strong deal as well, about in line with his prior deal that teams were looking to trade for. Obviously, that's not materialized. So, do I think Rodgers' price went up? Perhaps. I don't think the Saints were necessarily a suitor for Rodgers. So, if it took the Jets off the market, maybe then you could argue, okay, there's fewer teams now bidding for his services. At the same time, though, it's a very unique situation where I think teams are just trying to gauge how many years of football does this guy want to play. I don't want to pay him $60 million for maybe one season on top of the trade package I'd have to send.
So, two things I want to ask you. First of all, most people seem to think Rodgers is going to come back, but I want your opinion. And you guys looked at Aaron Rodgers. You rated Aaron Rodgers. I said I thought he became a step slow. He was a little less elusive. Obviously, the broken thumb had something to do with the accuracy, that and the fact that he was learning, on the fly with new receivers who were also banged up. Has his play slipped, or do you feel like he just had one off season and he's going to come back with a vengeance this season?
I think it was probably more to injuries than maybe we realized. Obviously, tries to play through everything throughout his entire career. I think the thumb really bothered him, and you saw that on tape. Some errant throws, some slightly inaccurate balls that I think you could maybe attribute to that. Obviously, some other nicks and bruises along the way. So, is he going to get back to back-to-back MVP form? Maybe not, but we're so closely removed from those seasons. I think he can play at a near that level for the next couple of years. I mean, you look at the team. Obviously, the injuries along the offensive line, trying to work in all these new young wide receivers. And when the chemistry finally developed there with a guy like Christian Watson, you did see, that 5-game win streak late in the year and more production across the board, more efficiency. So I think he still has it for a couple more years.
Okay, now the next question I have for you. So you've got, Tony Pollard. He has been tagged by the Cowboys. You got some decisions to make with Daniel Jones and then Saquon Barkley on top of that. We see some of these ramifications beginning to come more evident over the next 24, 48 hours, maybe even a little bit longer than that. Tell me some of the names that you see that are going to be on the market.
Well, I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
Tell me some of the names that you see that are going to be out there on the market as we start to look at a guy like Saquon Barkley. Lamar Jackson's deal still hasn't been done. You would assume they're going to franchise tag him. Pollard's been franchise tagged. Zeke Elliott could probably be out there. There's teams talking about shopping now. The Titans, Derrick Henry. Who do you feel some of the names might be on the market for other teams to start looking at?
I got you. Yeah. So, I really do think at this point we're going to see Saquon Barkley reach the market. I know Daniel Jones's group is in New York trying to iron out a deal before the deadline tomorrow for the franchise tag at 4 p.m. But I just think it's too short of a window for those two sides to work out a deal. So I think Saquon Barkley is going to test the open market. If you want to be better running backs to reach the market, I think David Montgomery in Chicago is probably going to reach the open market as well, maybe garner some interest. There are so many names at that position. Like you said, obviously more names being added with Derrick Henry, maybe a trade candidate. You just look around the NFL, and there's all different types of running back too. You want kind of a bruiser on early downs, a guy like Rashad Penny in Seattle, Jamal Williams, of course, former Green Bay Packer, coming off his 17 touchdown season. And then you want kind of an outside zone, speedier guy like a Raheem Mostert. There are options all over the board, and I think it's going to be a very active free agency for a lot of these running backs.
Being at the Combine, anything really intrigue you?
Yeah, I think a couple names that jumped out that I thought were going to get solid deals, but two names in particular, one on each side of the ball, that I think are going to get really, really strong contracts. So the first is Juwan Taylor at right tackle for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I thought he was going to get around $15, $16 million per year. Maybe it still ends up there, but you heard all week maybe he gets into the $18 million per year conversation, becomes one of the 5 highest paid right tackles in the NFL. I had 2 different team people say he is an elite, quote unquote, pass protector, could get better as a run blocker, but a really, really high-level pass protector at just 25 years old. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Denver Broncos interior defensive lineman, Draymond Jones, another guy I thought would get maybe $14, $15 million per year. Sounds like he could get 17, 18 as well. With the franchise tag for Deron Payne, with the age on guys like Javon Hargrave and Dalvin Tomlinson and some others, he's kind of viewed as the one prize younger interior defensive lineman and could do very well.
So as we sit here and start to look towards free agency, and we know the market's going to heat up here within a week. The Packers, we don't think they're going to have a ton of money to spend, but who may be able to be out there safety wise, maybe a veteran wide receiver that could help the Packers for we'll say a mid-level deal?
Yeah, I think safety is one position to definitely point to, and there are a lot of quality players there. And so I think, outside of the Jesse Bates of the world, there's a lot of mid-tier guys. I think a player like Von Bell makes a ton of sense. Coming off another year with the Cincinnati Bengals, they have a lot of free agents as well, a lot of money to spend, of course, on Joe Burrow and T. Higgins and so on. So, a guy that can play two high, single high, do a lot of different things, a reliable player, does not miss a lot of time. I think Von Bell makes a ton of sense. And then one more guy I find intriguing is Jimmy Ward. So coming off another season with the San Francisco 49ers, had been a safety, kind of a free safety type historically. This past season gets a little bit hurt, comes back, and apparently Kyle Shanahan said, if you want to start, you got to play slot corner. And as you know, the Packers could probably use some help in the slot. Obviously, Darnell Savage got some time in there. They tried a bunch of different things. But if you want a DB that can play safety, but has shown last year was actually really good in the slot to close the season, from week 8 to the end of the year, had an 80 coverage grade in the slot, top 15 at the position. So those two guys, veterans, good players, durable players, good run defenders, I think make a lot of sense.
The tight end position is something that the Packers are going to need to upgrade as well. We know that Robert Tonyan came off of an ACL last year and didn't look nearly as good as he had in the past. And I don't know how much that hampered him or didn't hamper him, but Mercedes Lewis is getting older. They need to upgrade that position. Is that something you do in free agency, or is there enough depth and quality in the draft that they could upgrade that position almost immediately?
It does look like a, historically good tight end draft class. A lot of guys, we already knew about the big names, the Michael Myers, Darnell Washington, Dalton Kincaids of the world, but I thought a guy like Sam Laporta out of Iowa had a great combine, a bunch of other names you could go through. If you want to look at free agency, I think a player like Austin Hooper makes a ton of sense. Some connections to Matt LaFleur in there and playing with coaches that he has coached with in the past, obviously in Tennessee this past season. a good blocker that can also catch the ball, find soft spots in zones and get some yards after the catch. I think that makes a ton of sense. They can probably do both. I mean, there is a lot of talent in both groups, which is, lines up well with their needs.
I know the Packers are going to be looking for wide receiver help as well. So tell me, because this doesn't seem to be, at least from what I've read, a very wide receiver deep draft, right?
It's not good in the draft, and it's not good in free agency either. So they might be, struggling a bit. They obviously need to have more and more growth from Christian Watson and Romeo Dobbs. I think maybe you slot a little if they don't bring Paris Campbell, Indianapolis, I think will be a mid-tier signing. And then in the draft, there are a lot of those slot types. The big names again, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Jordan Addison are some of the bigger names. But I think you also can see guys like Tank Dell out of Houston as a good shifty slot guy that maybe you get late day 2, realistically maybe early day 3. They'll have options there, but no one I think that comes in and makes an immediate big impact, next year.
Then I want to go to the draft. Is the Packers draft at number 15? So let's just say they hold tight there. Give me your thoughts as the draft board, maybe your draft board kind of works out to see what the Packers may or may not grab.
Yeah, I think they're going to stick to their classic Packers approach and probably go somewhere in the trenches, but it's the offensive or defensive side of the ball. I think that is where they'll look. I think a guy like a Kalijah Kancey out of Pittsburgh had a phenomenal week this past week and is now getting mocked in the top 10, but I think he could fall into their range. And I think he's a good kind of undersized guy. You pair next to Kenny Clark, more of a pass rusher, can get upfield and generate some pressure. I think that would make a ton of sense. On the offensive side of the ball, a guy like Peter Skoronski out of Northwestern, a little bit shorter arms, maybe is a guard, but probably another one of those players like Elton Jenkins that you can start all over the place and will give you some good football. I think those guys make sense. Paris Johnson out of Ohio State, a more true tackle, measured well, tested well. A lot of those guys I don't think are, top 10 guys that teams are clamoring for, but could be good values at 15.
Talking with our buddy Brad Spielberger, Pro Football Focus at PFF_Brad, also with overthecap.com. Now, I want to get into the cap side of things real quick. We know where the Packers are. I think the estimate is about $17 million under the cap right now. If we all figure that whatever happens with Aaron Rodgers, they're going to have to restructure that deal. How much money do you think they're going to be able to gain, whether it's keeping Rodgers on the roster to gain additional money on the salary cap, or how much do you think they're going to have to eat to be able to trade him away?
Yeah, so, if they do trade him away, they have $40 million in dead cap, and they would lose a little bit of cap space. But arguably more importantly is you clear about $60 million in cash. So you then can feel much more flexible from a spending standpoint and can push some money around, push some cap hits into the future. The big one I really think to keep an eye on is still David Bakhtiari. We've heard nothing as of yet. Maybe he's still back, but can clear about $15, $16 million there, moving on from him potentially. Don't take a huge dead cap hit in that situation. That's the biggest one, the big ticket one. And then you look at some more mid-tier options. I think, we obviously saw the restructure for guys like Preston Smith. I think that was, made sense. There had to be something that happened there. But they're in a fine cap spot if they do keep Rodgers. I think it's just, as we talked about, are they going to make a splash in free agency if they keep him? Probably not. If they don't, let's say they trade him away, obviously add some draft picks, try to build around a Jordan Love, and maybe then you do foray into an upper middle tier free agent type signing.
I look at Aaron Rodgers and what he may or may not restructure, but the David Bakhtiari thing becomes interesting because I know Gutekunst said that left tackles are hard to find. And David Bakhtiari played extremely well when he played this past season. And you're only going to gain about $6 million if you end up cutting him loose. So I can't imagine they're going to cut him loose. I would figure that another restructure's in his future. So if the Packers say do the max and max out some of these other contracts to restructure and you still gain some from Aaron Rodgers, are we talking about a team that's got, say, 25 to 30 million to spend? Now, 8 to 10 of that obviously is going to be for, your incoming rookies. But is that about the amount that they could end up with by the time it's all said and done?
Yeah, so you can get about $8 million with a max restructure on David Bakhtiari. You get about $3 million with a max restructure on Devondre Campbell. A guy like Rasul Douglas gets you around $2 million, and then everybody else, it's six figures. So if you do those three moves on top of what they've already done, obviously with Kenny Clark and Preston Smith, you're in that $25 million, in 2023 cap space conversation. As of today, The draft class isn't going to take a ton of money, in new cap space to replace what's currently on there. It'd be about $4 million in cap space. So yeah, then you're right around that $20 million conversation.
Real quick before I let you go, and I got to ask because there's so much speculation out there. So let's just say, have you figured it out if Rodgers plays, if he doesn't play, if he retires, if he gets traded, what all the money actually owed to Aaron Rodgers is going to be?
Yeah, so in 2023, he's owed $59.5 million in cash. The tricky thing and the complicated thing right now is technically all of his money next year is in salary. So as of today, he has a salary for that number, $59.5 million. What happens is if they exercise this option in his contract, then you chop off basically all the money besides a minimum salary of $1.165 million, and you convert it into a bonus and spread that out over, as of right now, 4 years, so about $15 million in each of those 4 years. That is the way it's currently set up. And that's why I think it complicates the trade conversation. Because like I said, if you're another team, yes, he's Aaron Rodgers. Yes, you want to bring him in. But you're talking maybe 2 firsts or maybe a first and a second or something like that. But let's say he comes in, you pay him $60 million, and then he retires. That's going to give a lot of teams pause.
Now, if he retires, what does he get? Does he get all that $60 million?
No, he does not. So you just quote unquote fully guaranteed, but if you don't earn money, then it doesn't matter. You still have to, be on the roster to trigger it or play, for salary purposes, play for it. So they wouldn't exercise that option bonus and it would all be salary. And if he retired, he wouldn't earn it. So he would not get any of that money. He basically would forfeit it. I guess you could say that. That's why I think he's going to come back. But I will say, you have a couple conversations in Indianapolis this past week, and people tell you, look, they're not betting he's going to retire, but they think it's a much more realistic possibility than maybe we in the media are giving it credit for.
Okay, real quick. So, because I know that they've pushed money from Rodgers down the road before. So if he retires, it's basically he gets paid nothing.
So he obviously would have all the bonuses from the past, and the Packers are not going to go after, prior bonus money like we saw with Calvin Johnson in Detroit, for example. They would never do that. But yeah, from a 2023 cash standpoint, if he retires, he's not getting any of that $59.5 million in cash. And the team would basically, realize that in cap savings or cash savings or whatever have you, if he does step away.
Okay, but then the $40 million still sits there, correct? Or does it?
Then he'd still have that $40 million in dead cap because that is all just prior, signing bonus and restructure bonus proration. You can't meddle with that. It's on the books, in stone.
Right. So there you go. So if he retires, it's a little bit over $40 million of a cap hit that the Packers take immediately. And if he doesn't retire, they can restructure it depending on how long he wants to play and what he wants to do. And then if he retires, the Packers still take the cap hit, but he doesn't get money. So there you have it. Great stuff, Brad. Appreciate it as always, buddy. And we'll talk to you soon. Okay.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thanks so much. You can read his stuff, Pro Football Focus, PFF_Brad with overthecap.com. So Rodgers gets, like he said, he gets a little bit of that money, and that's about the extent of it. He doesn't get to the guaranteed money at all. And the Packers are then saddled with the $40.3 million worth of cap hit if indeed Rodgers would say, I'm going to call it a career, which is why you would want him to wait until after the June 1st to be able to split that money up into a couple of years where they don't have to absorb the 40.3. It would be 20.15 over 2 years that they would be able to spread out for the cap hit. So a lot of stuff there. Hang in there. We got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Show coming up. Don't forget, bottom of the hour, we're also going to take our trip over to New York, and we're going to talk to Zach Rosenblatt with The Athletic. He covers the Jets. We want to get the Jets' perspective on this and what he's hearing in New York. Stay tuned. We got a whole lot more of the Bill Michaels Show. It's all coming up right after this.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Jeff, what was the final straw at home that had you call Pella?
I walked into my son's room and there was frost on the hardware on the inside of the house. My wife was getting upset with the drafts coming through the doors. That was it. Putting new windows and doors in your home is a big decision. With all the options that Pella has, everybody on your staff has done a great job of making a really difficult decision super simple. And I can't wait to have them in my house.
Order today and get 0% interest for 48 months. Visit PellaWI.com today.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back. Good to have you, the Bill Michaels Show. We continue on. Glad you're here. Good stuff from our buddy Brad Spielberger, Pro Football Focus. Great to talk to him for a couple of minutes and kind of get his perspective on all of this and what's available, what's not available. And again, the wide receiver core in this draft, not huge. The top has got some really good ones, and then you've got more so tight ends than anything that are more available in this draft. And when you start to kind of roll through this, what the availability is going to be when it comes to the Green Bay Packers getting more weaponry. The Packers, well, as we've said before, the Packers are going to need to kind of do a few things, whether it's via free agency or not, to bolster this offense. So we shall see. We shall see what the Packers actually do. But good stuff from Brad Spielberger. And then coming up here after the bottom of the hour, we're going to be talking to Zach Rosenblatt, and he works with The Athletic. We're going to talk with him about the New York Jets perspective in all of this, as the breaking news of the day is that Derek Carr is signing with the New Orleans Saints, and that would then leave the Jets without a quarterback if indeed they don't get Aaron Rodgers. So there's some discussion there. Some more thoughts on the Badgers. We were talking about that a little bit earlier, and Ken seems to think that the Badgers are going to need to win the first two games in the Big Ten tournament if they're going to get in. Otherwise, they just will not make it. They're a very good team. They're just not a very good team at winning. They've lost a lot of close games, and hopefully this season is a learning environment for what's to come next year. We talked about that a little bit this past week with Rowdy Ben, that the Badgers have lost quite a few, single or to maybe two possession games, close games against good teams. But the loss is the loss after a while. I mean, if you're winning some of these games and losing some of these games, maybe you're a team that's on the come. But right now, you're just a team that's fighting and fighting and fighting and playing extremely hard, but you don't have the wins to show for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What sucks about it is so many of the losses were either when they were short manned with Tyler Wall out, but they were all because of very preventable mistakes. They just couldn't make free throws. They couldn't finish. It was really high spells on. And it really took until last night against Minnesota to see the older lead up on the team in Chucky Hepburn, Tyler Wall, and Steven Crowell really have a different look in their eyes in the second half and go down the court every time. And the intensity was there after they scored. And part of it was the fact that they were efficient, but you kind of felt a different energy from them last night. Like they were not going to lose that game that you didn't see previously for whatever reason, which sucks.
And
but it could be a good thing.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Going into March, now they've unlocked that. Now they know they can do it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I also think that maybe this was the backs against the wall. You knew you had to have it. You know what I mean? You had to have that game. And you couldn't let that one slip through your fingers as well. So maybe that was part of it. And you saw a little bit of the desperation last night. And they did. They played well down the stretch. 877-867-1670. Also want to talk a little Brewers coming up here after the top of the hour. We'll get into that somewhat. By the way, the word is out now on the contract for Derek Carr. And so the Derek Carr contract, 4 years, 100 and what is it? 4 years, $150 million? Or no?
Yes.
4 years, $150 million. 4 years, $150 million. Now, there is a signing bonus, the signing money up front is about $100 million in total guarantees, $70 million fully guaranteed, $60 million at signing, another $10 million in year 3 of the vesting. After year 1, Carr structures his deal to accommodate the salary cap issues that the Saints have. But 4 years, $150 million, $100 million in total guarantee, $60 million at signing, $10 million after year 3, and $70 million effectively fully guaranteed with regardless. So Derek Carr just cashed in. He's not looking back from the Raiders, I'll tell you that. He just cashed in. So now you wonder, first of all, what does that do to the market for Lamar Jackson? Because, again, not a fully guaranteed contract. A lot of guaranteed money, but not a fully guaranteed contract. And what does that do for the Jets? What does that do for Rodgers? What will Rodgers end up doing as far as giving some of this money the ability to giving some of it back, so to speak, salary-wise, to be able to allow the Packers to get even further under the salary cap? And you heard what we just had with Brad Spielberger, that if they restructured the max contracts to be able to restructure, including David Bakhtiari, they're going to have about $25 million, $4 to $5 million for some of the younger guys, the draft choices coming in, which gives you about 20, and they can maybe get an extra 10 to 15 out of Aaron Rodgers. You could have quite a bit of money to spend. Now, granted, you are completely pressed up against it. You are maxed out. But you could actually, if you said you wanted to bring Rodgers back, you would have enough money to, in essence, quote, go for it, and would be able to do that. So if that's the route you want to take, and you're the Green Bay Packers, and you still believe that Aaron Rodgers gives you the best chance to win, well, maybe that's what you end up doing before it's all said and done. 877-867-1670. Coming up, Zach Rosenblatt going to join us from The Athletic. He covers the Jets. Jets, Jets. That's coming up after the bottom of the hour. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at the Nice Ash Cigar Bar, 323 West Main Street, downtown Waukesha. They've got bourbons and whiskeys, fine ones, large walk-in humidor. They have live music Thursday, Friday, Saturdays, 13 different flavors of hookahs. They have got, it's just a good place. It's a great place to go and sit and meet. Downtown Waukesha. Again, support downtown Waukesha as it continues to recover from years ago.
from the Christmas parade tragedy. It's right there on Main Street, but just good people. Go to theniceash.com. That's theniceash.com. Nice Ash Cigar Park, downtown Waukesha. Coming up next, going to talk to Zach Rosenblatt of The Athletic, covers the Jets. He'll join us right after this.
Cover Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Jeff, what was the final straw at home that had you call Pella?
I walked into my son's room and there was frost on the hardware on the inside of the house. My wife was getting upset with the drafts coming through the doors. That was it. Putting new windows and doors in your home is a big decision. With all the options that Pella has, everybody on your staff has done a great job of making a really difficult decision super simple. And I can't wait to have them in my house.
Order today and get 0% interest for 48 months. Visit PellaWI.com today.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Got to hit it, bang it, rock it, put it in the pocket. Hit it, bang it, rock it, put it in the pocket. Hit it, bang it, rock it, put it in the pocket. Hit it, bang it, rock it, put it in the pocket. Yeah, yeah.
Welcome back to the program. Glad to have you. The Bill Michaels Show. We continue on. The big news of the day, if you're just tuning us in, is the fact that Derek Carr has signed with the New Orleans Saints, and 4 years, $150 million, $100 million of it guaranteed in some way, shape, or form. Where does that leave now? Because everybody just assumed that if Derek Carr did not sign with the Jets, that the Jets were suddenly in negotiation in some way, shape, or form with the Green Bay Packers for the services of Aaron Rodgers. Joining us now, Zach Rosenblatt. Zach Blatt over on Twitter from The Athletic, covering the JETS, Jets, joining us now on the hotline. Zach, how you doing, man? Thanks for taking a couple of minutes to join us.
Yeah, no problem. I'm just waiting for Aaron to make a decision like you guys are.
Okay, let me ask you this. What is the fatigue level in New York of the Aaron Rodgers will he or will he not story?
There definitely is some fatigue, but I think it's more just Jets fans just so desperately want to have a good quarterback finally, and they feel like Aaron's dragging them along when in reality it was probably always going to take up until like when free agency started or close to it. So I think it's probably going maybe not as expected, but I don't know. Fans are frustrated, but at the same time, if Aaron Rodgers becomes a Jet, then they won't care about how long he took to do it.
Right. So they're pretty much willing to wait this out as long as he ends up in the green and white. So what is it? Let's just say the Packers don't eat that salary or portion of it. What happens? I mean, I don't know what the rumors are in New York, but there's a lot of money that we're talking about besides just the services of Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, the $60 million guarantee that you'd have to pay him if you bring him in. I had heard there was some hesitance to pay that amount of money in addition to like giving up draft capital. So you would think that wouldn't be, if the Packers are like, we're not paying a dime of that, you have to pay it. Then maybe the Jets, rethink their position. But, I think right now first they need Aaron Rodgers to say, I want to go to the Jets. I think that's we're a few steps from that like negotiation stage, I think, because we're still literally just waiting for Rodgers to say, I'm staying in Green Bay, I'm going to the Jets, or I'm retiring. Once he says, I want to go to the Jets, then I think things will move a little quicker. The Jets don't have a whole lot of leverage now that Derek Carr isn't there, so I think the Packers are going to be able to get more than maybe they would have if, Derek Carr was still on the board. And it's all part of the negotiation and all part of the process. And if the Packers do, eat some of that money, then they'll be able to get more draft value from the Jets, you would think. And if they don't, then I'm curious to see what that trade would look like.
I was going to say, what are is there any rumors of any concrete ilk out there regarding the Jets and what they're willing to give up, or is it just right now that everybody's just waiting in limbo with speculation?
I think it's more everybody's waiting in limbo, and then you kind of know. But I mean, I think a lot of the basis of what it might look like is just on the fact that quarterbacks much worse than Aaron Rodgers have gotten pretty decent trade value. Even if you just look at like Carson Wentz, the last couple trades got like second round picks. So if he's getting that, no matter if the Jets are the only team negotiating with them or not, I think the Packers are going to be able to get a pretty decent amount of capital out of the Jets from this. I still think they can get a first out of them. Maybe the money part of it is a big factor, but I think they can at least get a first and probably more.
for this to be fair, and we all know that Aaron Rodgers said he would make a decision before free agency, so we assume this is coming here in the next. I'm kind of thinking it's this week, but I thought then again it was last week, so who knows? But so what hinges? What other player personnel moves are hinging upon the signing or not signing of Aaron Rodgers regarding the New York Jets side of things?
I mean, kind of everything in a way, I guess. But it's more they need to know if Rodgers is going to be coming to the Jets, or if they need to go and overpay Jimmy G, or if they need to bring back Mike White. Like it pretty much, quarterback is their number one priority. Bringing in a veteran quarterback, they've specified they want a veteran quarterback. So if Aaron Rodgers comes and doesn't want to come here, then they have to figure out who the next option is. And so I think ideally, this week, if it wasn't going to be him in particular, he tells you this week he's not going to be all right, so we can focus on Jimmy G, we can focus on Jacoby Brissett or Mike White, and not as exciting, but they need a quarterback. They don't have one right now. They don't want to start Zach Wilson this year. Starts there. They need to build out some cap casualty situations and who they need to cut. Maybe that would change depending on if Rodgers is here or not. And yeah, there's a lot of business that's waiting on Aaron to make his decision.
That was going to be my next question is, you've got another first round draft choice at quarterback that doesn't seem to work out. What just happened with Zach Wilson?
Man, I think I need more than this short segment to tell you everything. I would, I think a lot, there's a lot of factors. I think one of them is maybe there was a little bit of a misevaluation. I don't think just the Jets. I think a lot of teams in the league thought Zach, was going to be interesting. People saw some Mahomes attributes to him where he could improvise and make things happen. But I think there was maybe overvalue of his film from his last year at BYU, which was during the pandemic and against some bad teams. And so he gets here and he's pretty clearly a guy that was probably more of a developmental quarterback than someone who should be thrown in right away. The Jets have admitted they shouldn't have played him right away. And so, he played pretty poorly that year. His offensive coordinator, Michael LaFleur, kind of turned on him a little bit and made it pretty clear he didn't believe in him. And so he started losing his confidence. And then you get to this last year, he loses his confidence. He starts losing the locker room. And then it all kind of, came to a head in the way it ended at the end of the season. And now all of a sudden they are planning for life after him. I think they're open to the possibility they can develop him as a backup behind Rodgers or somebody else. But I think everybody in the building knows that they kind of messed that one up and the way they handled it and in terms of their evaluation. So there's a lot of angles to that.
How much of the hiring of Nathaniel Hackett as the offensive coordinator so is maybe in the hopes things very similar for Rodgers if indeed he comes there?
I would say definitely in the back of their mind, what Robert was mind when he hired him. I don't think that was the only reason. I know that, Robert was having a hard time finding an offensive coordinator that was willing to come to the Jets. You look at, they might be a coaching staff on the hot seat if they all lose. They're one and done potentially, and you don't have a quarterback answer on the roster. The idea that you might have to, if developing Zach Wilson is part of your responsibility, does a coach want to do that? And so he ran into some issues with offensive coordinators that weren't quite willing to take the job, or the ones that didn't have play calling experience. So he matched up with Nathaniel Hackett, who was coming off the experience in Broncos and maybe wants to prove something. And he's close to Aaron Rodgers and he's called plays before. And it was kind of a perfect marriage in terms of what Robert was looking for. So I think that's part of it. And Nathaniel Hackett also will be running a similar offense, which I think Robert Saleh was looking for too. So it wasn't only Rodgers, but I'd be lying if I said that wasn't a factor, because it definitely was.
Is Rodgers the linchpin to all of this, to this team really feeling like they're Super Bowl bound? Did they feel they're that close?
Yeah, I think they do believe that if they get Aaron Rodgers, they're a Super Bowl contender, because they look at their defense and what it was last year, and it was pretty elite. They have some young talent on offense. I think they need to fill it out a little more than they maybe do. But and their offensive line's a bigger issue than I think it's a bigger issue than they maybe do. But they really believe you plug in the star quarterback and you can go on a run.
Real quick before I let you go, and I know that they kind of feel like if Rodgers comes there, they could be in contention for a Super Bowl. But man, that AFC is stacked. If you had to rank them, even with Rodgers, where would you put them? Would you put them behind Kansas City? Would you put them behind Cincinnati? Would you put them behind Buffalo, or would you put them ahead of all of those teams?
Yes, that's where I'm at. I think they'd be clearly behind those teams. So they still do have a lot of holes on their roster. And the idea that they're a quarterback away, in my opinion, it's not completely accurate, and there's a lot of question marks still on this team. They have to make some tough decisions if they get Rodgers. That involves cutting guys. But people forget, when you cut guys, you have to replace them. So I think they're a few steps away from being like that level of contender. I think they're probably the next step below that. The Dolphins group of teams and teams like that maybe have the talent to make some noise in the playoffs, but I wouldn't necessarily trust them against the Bengals, the Chiefs, the Bills, and teams like that quite yet.
Great stuff, man. I appreciate it, Zach. And then if things break, we'll touch base with you again real soon, okay?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks so much. There you go, Zach Rosenblatt, at Zach Blatt over on Twitter. He covers the Jets for The Athletic, and some good stuff there. And again, so this goes back to, and this is why I wanted to get somebody from New York on, because when you think about it, okay, if Rodgers gets traded, right, and Rodgers agrees to this and says, you know what, okay, you guys are moving on, I want to go somewhere else. Yeah, it's Nathaniel Hackett. Yeah, it's Robert Saleh. Yeah, it's a similar situation. But I don't think you're any closer to a Super Bowl than you are in Green Bay. So if I'm Rodgers and I'm committed to coming back and playing, why do I want to go anywhere else? Why would I? Because you're not. I don't think you're that much closer in New York. And I say that because don't forget, when you start to look at this, you've got, and I just reeled off 3 or 4 right there when you talk about teams in the NFL, specifically in the AFC, because you got Buffalo, you've got Cincinnati. If Baltimore keeps Lamar Jackson, I think Baltimore is still legit. You're still going to have the Kansas City Chiefs. Who knows what's going to happen in Denver? I don't know if I would consider Denver an up-and-comer or not, because Russell Wilson had a horrific year last year. There's still the Chargers to contend with. I mean, you've got teams over there. If Tua comes back and he's healthy, could Miami be a team that's in play? In your own division, you could have 2 teams in the AFC North, 2 other teams in the AFC East, a couple of teams in the AFC West. You got a battle pass. Whereas in the NFC, I think in totality, you have a good San Francisco team, a good Dallas team, a good Philadelphia team. Who else are you really battling with that's going to be considered Super Bowl contender? You know what I mean? So if I'm Rodgers and I really want to, I really want to come back and I want to play for a championship, where do you have the most ability to possibly win? 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. Think about that. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Quick Trip. I love me some Quick Trip. Stopped in there today. Had to get some chocolate milk. We have these low-fat chocolate milks with our shake for the Trinant stuff, for the meal replacement, and it's fantastic. But I stopped into Quick Trip today, ran in, grabbed a couple of things. I needed some eggs, too, so I grabbed some eggs. And their bananas are always awesome. So I grabbed some eggs, grabbed some bananas, grabbed some chocolate milk. Used my Quick Rewards card, in and out, great stuff. Didn't have to run through the big box stores. I've always said, stop in a Quick Trip, because unless you need to go full-on grocery shopping, Quick Trip's the way to go. And the best part about it is they've got the bacon on sale, limited couple of packs, because the price is so good right now that people are going in and scooping them up. As a matter of fact, the gentleman that was ahead of me had 2 things of bacon, 2 breakfast sandwiches, a couple of Red Bulls, and I'm like, where the hell are you going? But he was loading up. But stop in a Quick Trip. They are just great people, a lot of fun. And yes, for everybody that's been asking, hey, Bill, we got the cigar dinners coming back this year? Yes, we will. I'll let you know the dates when they become available. But yes, so we are putting them together as we speak. I think there's going to be 6 total throughout the state of Wisconsin again this year in June and August, but really looking forward to it. So in conjunction with Quick Trip and Quick Spirits, keep using that Quick Rewards card. You are good to go. More of the Bill Michaels Show next.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Michael Show, we continue on. Big weekend coming up. You've got a lot of different sporting events and such taking place downtown. You got concerts in downtown Milwaukee, Bucks basketball coming up. And it's funny because I had a friend of mine call me and say, hey, the rodeo's even in town. The Stenny's run shuttles to everything. So if you're looking for a terrific place to go before or after, and you want to go eat, you want to get a few beverages, you want somebody else to do the driving, drop you off right there at the front door, that's our friends at Stenny's. Second to National, Walker's Point, and it is the best wings you're ever going to have. They have the Bill Michaels garlic cheese bread. You got to order it specifically. And then they have just great burgers and their fries. I love their fries. I'll get just a basket of fries and call it a day. Their food is so good. But it's the Cheers of Milwaukee. It is such an eclectic mix. It's so many different types of people. And it's just so cool. And I've been recommending it for years and years and years, and I can't recommend it any more today than I did when I first walked in the place. It's just awesome. So check out our friends at Stenny's, Second and National, Walker's Point in Milwaukee, running shuttles. And when the Brewers get up and going again, they're going to be running shuttles to the Brewers games too. So get a hold of our friends at Stenny's and head on down. Good stuff from Stenny's. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. So as I was sitting there asking the question just a little while ago, let's say that Rodgers is committed. He wants to come back. Isn't his best opportunity? Isn't it the best opportunity to come back and play for the Packers? You know? Correct? I mean, you know, wouldn't you be, you know, Ben, if you were Aaron Rodgers, where would you want to be?
I would want to be in Green Bay. I would also be very comfortable there, clearly,
right,
with his standing in the organization and in the locker room with the guys coming back. So from his perspective, I totally get it. If I'm the Packers, though, I still probably want to try to trade him.
Logic would tell you the Packers probably want to move him. If you believe that Jordan Love's ready to go, then yeah, the Packers would probably want to move him. But if you're still unsure, I wouldn't be convinced. I'd be more looking at, you know, the possibility of say trying to run it back one more time. You really would love to be a fly on the wall, I think, at this point. You know what I mean? You just want to be a fly on the wall to know what direction they're going to go and why. or at least to know the inside of, do they feel Jordan Love's a real deal? If they don't feel Jordan Love's a real deal, then this is a no-brainer. But for all, and then when you start to read the Adam Silver article about Rodgers and about the Packers and how the Packers have said, look, yeah, they're open. If he's ready to come back and be a part of this, absolutely, they're open to taking him back. No doubt about it. Not Adam Silver, Michael Silver. I'm sorry, Michael Silver. Where, they if he's all in, their ears are open. If he's not, then as they stated, that Packers believe that he checked out on them a little bit after he signed that big contract extension. He skipped the off-season voluntary workout program and all that kind of stuff, and that his leadership is kind of, quote, down. But if he's ready to championship, he wants to come back, and they're receptive. But as the quote is in the article, the days of begging him to return are over. If he tells them he's ready to go, then they're going to talk. But otherwise, they wouldn't be enthused about Aaron Rodgers coming back. So we'll see what direction. Yeah, I might, because people say, well, Aaron Rodgers doesn't have any power in this. It's like, no, he really does. Because if he retires, you're talking $40 million of dead cap money. If he doesn't retire, what's he going to restructure his money to? How much does he give or not give when it comes to the agreement? Does he want to or not be traded? Does he want to make it tough on the Packers or not? I mean, all of that kind of stuff. So, it's so, you just wish you knew what the belief was for Jordan Love behind the scenes. Jordan Love has been the fly in the ointment in one way, shape, and not to his fault, but just because of the pick from the day they brought him in. It's been the giant, the giant question mark sitting there the entire time that you always have to address in some way, shape, or form. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. Now, it says, not surprisingly, the Packers started off the season slow, with Rodgers struggling to develop chemistry. Receivers often appearing frustrated. Worse, that Rodgers seemed to turn it on down the stretch, leading Green Bay to a four consecutive win stretch run. With their season on the line before they actually lost to the Lions on the final Sunday of the regular season, a defeat that cost the Packers a playoff berth. But some of Rodgers' bosses felt that the late run proved their point, that had the quarterback been so invested from the get-go, the season would have actually proceeded a little bit differently. Rodgers then emerges from the darkness, is expected to confer with Gutekunst before the start of the league year, which is on March 15th. And I suppose it's possible that he's going to tell the GM he's all in and will spend every waking hour chasing another Super Bowl, and Rodgers would be welcomed back eagerly in Green Bay, according to the article. He says, my instincts tell me that a breakup is far more likely, whether it's Rodgers forcing the issue, which he has previously said that he does not want to be a part of a rebuilding effort, or the Packers essentially telling him, you don't really seem that into it, let's just move on. And then after that, it gets really complicated, to say the very least. So a lot of what ifs, a lot of what could be's, should be's, all that kind of stuff to go. When we come back, though, I got to talk a little, I got to spread it out. Got to talk a little Bucks, got a lot of talk a little Brewers. Yeah, you got to, right? You got to. And here's a question for you. If you're a Brewers fan, as it stands right now, are you excited about this season? Excited in the sense of belief of what this team is going to do. Are you excited? Are you excited? Going to talk some Brewers when we come back. More of the Bill Michaels Show coming up next. Good to have you back. Bill Michaels Show. Continuing on. 877-867-1670. 877-867-1670. Hopefully you're enjoying your day. And I want to turn our side. The breaking news of the day is former quarterback from the Raiders, Derek Carr, he signs with the Saints. And that's a domino. As we were waiting for some of these dominoes to fall, obviously the Jets are waiting on Aaron Rodgers. Lamar Jackson's still trying to work out a deal with the Baltimore Ravens. And Daniel Jones is trying to work out a deal with the Giants. So you've got issues going on there. So Jimmy Garoppolo is out on the market. There's a lot of different, kind of quarterback balls in the air, so to speak. But the biggest story that's been this offseason is the decision of Aaron Rodgers, which we still wait for. In the meantime, the Milwaukee Brewers trudging through their season, their early spring training season. And we've seen some good. Tyrone Taylor's not having a good camp. He's had some injuries and some problems and such. And there's been clock management and there's been loopholes in the shift system and such. But in the grand scheme of things, when you look at what the Brewers are doing and what they could be doing, what is the optimism for this season? What is the optimism for this season? Brewers have won a few. Yesterday, again, they, with 11 strikeouts, watching this team get mowed down. Then you got the best pitcher in Major League Baseball, and Corbin Burns, that many believe right now, he's a guy that's just they feel he's going to have a terrific season, and come the trade deadline, he could possibly be on his way out. The need to move him before the 2024 season seems to be there, because he's going to hit free agency and get a ton of money. We all know that. Brewers have the White Sox on the docket. That'll be coming up tomorrow. They're off today, so nobody's in the park today. So the early returns, they are sitting right now at 4-6 on the young spring training year. They have had a couple of games. As a matter of fact, the last two games, they've scored a total of 3 runs. They've been, they won, I take that back. They won 14-2 and lost 6-1. So you've seen them turn it on and then turn it off. But they have scored. They've got 2 games of double digits so far this year. They scored 10 and scored 14. So they have been able to hit the ball. But there are times when they just, again, like yesterday, kind of falls by the wayside. So, but it's spring training. And spring training means guys are working on certain things. Maybe you're a hitter looking on just, getting stuff low and away, or just trying to get your bat speed up, or you're just trying to kind of make contact, and pitchers are just trying to hit the corners at this point, or you're trying to work on a breaking ball. So you're not really into the depths and seriousness of spring training at this point, unless you're a young guy trying to make a name for yourself. So here's the question. How excited are you for this season? How excited are you for this season? With some of the young guys they have in this team, how excited are you for this season? They bring in Contreras from Atlanta. You get Jesse Winker. He comes in from Seattle. He's your DH. You still got Urias. Garrett Mitchell's coming up. They drafted him a couple of years ago. You got Brian Anderson, comes out of Miami. They grabbed him. There's Bryce Terang, the guy that's here, So give me your thoughts on this team and on your excitement. Darren says 82 wins if they're lucky. Mark says not too excited. A lot of the same swingers and missers from last year. City Gold says 84 wins, book it. And then this one's from Tyrone, who says, still chasing the Cardinals, always will. Not enough money to spend. No big signings in the offseason. Disappointing as usual. That's from Tyrone. Tyrone, appreciate the email. But where's your excitement level for this team? 877-867-1670. 877-867-1670. I'd love to find out. Love to find out. Just for the fact that I don't really know what I don't have a lot. I'll be honest, okay? I don't have a lot. I don't have a lot of excitement. I'm excited for baseball. Don't get me wrong. I love baseball season. There is so much that goes with it. When I think of baseball, when I think of Brewers baseball, I think of going to the ballpark, whether it's in the press box or in the stands. I enjoy it. I just enjoy going to the game. But I also think of summer. I think of sitting out back and grilling, watching the TV, rooting for the team. I think of, series with the Cubs, maybe heading down to Chicago, maybe, going to a series or two up here. I travel a little bit, so I get a chance to see them when they're in Cincinnati or St. Louis or Pittsburgh, so I think of all that kind of stuff. And I just love summer. I love, that there's something on almost every day and all that kind of stuff. But do you have an excitement level? Randy says they're going to be lucky to hit 500 this year. As a Cubs fan, I'm excited to see if they can knock off Milwaukee and St. Louis. That's from Brett. Again, an estimation for 82 games. Scott says this team's got about 80 wins in them the way they sit right now. I don't know if I can believe in Garrett Mitchell tearing up the league. The league's going to adjust to him. Can he then adjust back to the league? Or is this going to be a Keston Hiura thing all over again? Darren, appreciate the email. That's my question. I don't know if fans know what to expect. That's all. And I don't get, I think I get a lot of people that are excited about Brewers baseball because it's baseball, because it brings everything with it. It brings tailgates and it brings summer, it brings warmer weather, and it brings everything that goes along with that. So that's baseball season. But as far as saying, hey, they're ready to take over the Cardinals for the top spot, that the talent they brought in, the young guys they have, the pitching they have, then it leads to, it begs the question, like last year, they got off to the fastest start in franchise history. Okay. And you saw what happened after they made the Hader trade. What happens if they get off to this fast start? Guys are hitting, young guys are coming along. The guys they picked up, Jesse Winker's cranking it. Suddenly you get the return of 2018 version of Christian Yelich. All of that begins to happen. And then you realize that there's other teams that are vying that need a pitcher. What happens if they trade Corbin Burns away? Because you're going to have to, whether it's, the trade deadline or going into the offseason. Offseason, chances are you can probably get more. But you think about that. JJ says, I'm fishing and doing other things this summer. Not much time for baseball. I wonder. Brian says, not that excited. Thought with our starting pitching and bullpen, if we could only get a hitter or two last trade deadline, or if some young talent would actually emerge hitting wise, then the Hader trade salary dump happened, and our answer threw the GM under the bus, and our owner threw the GM under the bus, he says. Then he stepped down. That's where I'm at. Which is fair. Can't argue with it. Andrew says, with the Brewers, you can wish in one hand and crap in the other. Good God.
You guys have really brightened the day.
Right? But this is, I hear people that, and look, I'm not trying to criticize others that feel like there's something here, but I listen to local and I listen to national, and there's some that just raises my ass. I'm like, am I missing something? I hope it's all true. I hope Garrett Mitchell's the real deal. I hope Winker comes back into the National League Central and just sets it on fire. I hope, Contreras is the guy, the answer, the backstop, I hope all of that happens. But I'm kind of like, what am I missing? Is there something more here that I'm missing that I don't see? You have, your bullpen's still your question mark. I just, Ben, are you optimistic? Do you think this team's vying for the top spot in the National League Central?
Believe it or not, I actually am. I think it's the only thing I've ever been optimistic about. I sat down, I started to go through it as spring training was starting. And based on what they were last year, I felt like everything went wrong. Obviously with the trade, but also after the trade and with injuries to key offensive players and the bullpen just collapsed. Everything went wrong and they were still on the doorstep. The division stinks overall, top to bottom. The Cardinals are good, but they're not in a gauntlet of a division. And if you look through the large sample size of last season, the full season long stats, yes, their offense was so frustrating to watch because it was inconsistent. And there were moments where they pitched well, but they couldn't hit when they needed to hit. They were still completely middle of the road in most offensive categories, in like 14 to 17. They weren't that horrible. And I think they got substantially better with Contreras. They did lose Renfroe, but you have a lot of young guys coming up. It's not as if just one Keston Hiura comes up. You have Mitchell, and you mentioned Terang, and you kind of bank on one of those guys to pop. And then, you also have a wild card in Jesse Winker there as well. And then Yelich, it can't get worse for Yelich, I feel like. So with everything that went on last year, it felt like the worst case scenario. And then they bring all the guys back, and I see improvement on that side, let's say. I don't think the defense will be as poor. The only big thing that I'm questioning is the bullpen. If the bullpen can perform, I think they'll win the division easily. If it doesn't, then we see the same stuff as last year.
Here's something for you. And I was looking at fan graphs and roster. Do you know what the projection is for Christian Yelich this year?
262, which is generous. 22 home runs. And what? 90, 80 ribbies?
No. As a matter of fact, they've got the 2023 projection for Christian Yelich is batting .246, slugging percentage of .410, 19 home runs, and an on-base percentage of .353. So if you look at the power numbers, do we now turn around and bet on the 19 home runs for Christian Yelich?
I'll take 20.
You take 20 or more? And I would take 19 or less?
It's not really based on anything. I just can't see it getting substantially worse.
I'm not saying it's worse. I'm saying it's the same. Because last year, what did he hit? 15, 14 home runs?
I had 15, and he hit 14.
Yeah. He does look a little thicker to me. So maybe he's got, whatever he did in the offseason and core strength and conditioning and such. He's already got a double, ground rule double and a homer this year, early on in spring training. But maybe we bet on it. Maybe we pick a number and look at Christian Yelich for a successful season or not. We'll as the next couple of weeks go by, as we get ready to get into the regular season, we'll bet on Christian Yelich.
So I have fan graphs ahead of me, and they have the Brewers at 85.8 wins, 3 behind the Cardinals projected. They give the Brewers a 37% chance to win the division, and the Cardinals 57. I just look ahead, and I feel like if they don't win the Central, I think it's a colossal disappointment. I feel like they should be the big favorites.
What makes them better, other than their starting pitching? What makes them better than the Cardinals? See, when you go pound for pound, player for player, the Cardinals are a better team. And the Brewers, while they got off to that fast start, remember, and again, the underestimation of going ahead and getting rid of, Josh Hader was a colossal mistake. But because you talked about the numbers and where they were at the end of the season, but at the beginning of the season, they were beating the hell out of the baseball. And then it just went away. I mean, it was gone. And they were all or nothing. And they got some really terrific pitching performances, but they wasted so many really good outings by that starting staff last year. And you thought if they just got a couple of those, it's a different type of season, maybe a different type of atmosphere. But they just didn't. And it became an all or nothing team. I hope they got offensively better, even if they're just hitting. Just I'm not talking about power numbers. I'm just talking about putting the ball in play.
Being able to run the bases, do a few different things, maybe just getting some base knocks and driving in some runs, even if it's station to station baseball. That's all I'm hoping for. Just to be able to say hitting's contagious in some way, shape, or form, because last year it just wasn't. It was horrific. And meanwhile, you had good pitchers giving good outings only to watch it fall by the wayside, or when they needed the big outing, they didn't get it because you couldn't put the hitting and the pitching together at the same time, and it just struggled all season long. But Christian Yelich has something to prove. Willie Adames needs to come back and play extremely. I mean, right now, they don't have a hitter on this team in the starting lineup projected 250 or better. And remember, Hunter Renfroe was the guy that gave you the 250 plus batting average last year. Everybody else on this team via Fangraphs projection right now, not one is projected to hit 250 or better. And I know people talk about average and it doesn't mean as much. You got to go by OPS. Well, that's fine, but still average plays into it. So not one guy projected to hit better than 250 this season. And that's where I have the issue is like their starting pitching still good. Their bullpen's a question mark. And did they get better offensively? Or do they just get better power numbers and they'll just drive in a few more runs? But ultimately, again, going back to needing clutch hitting, will they be able to get it? Let's do this. We're going to step out. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back. We got a lot more to get to. Hang in there. More of the Bill Michaels Show coming up. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Kemp's. They're right here in our own backyard. Kemp's dairy products, they are fantastic, but they're looking for help. They're based in Cedarburg, Wisconsin. And if you are looking for a career, if you're looking for $23 an hour plus, you're looking for 401k and medical and dental, they're hiring CDL drivers, production people, technical people, and maintenance. So they're looking for help right here in our own backyard. Kemp's, Kemps, Kemps.com. And at the bottom of the page, you'll see the careers link. Click on it, and you can go ahead and fill it out, the app, and they'll get back to you. Again, go to Kemps.com. That's Kemps.com. Kemps.com, Kemps. Click on careers at the bottom of the page, and you're going to be good to go. Again, Kemps.com. Click on careers at the bottom of the page. Good to go, and get yourself a new career. More of the Bill Michaels Show next.
Ready? This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
I'm Gina Della from Pella. Unparalleled service from beginning to end. That's the Pella promise. And it all starts with a free consultation right in the comfort of your own home. Don't imagine. See for yourself how Pella can help change the beauty and curb appeal of your home. Or visit one of our 3 showrooms where you can experience the latest in technology and design innovations, like the new hidden screen, exclusively at Pella. Don't wait. Visit PellaWI.com today.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Got a nice note from Art and his staff. They ended up going over to the Lux Golf Bays. He said this past weekend, and said what a great time. Didn't know they were there, and he said, man, what a tremendous place that they have there in Franklin, Wisconsin. And Art, I couldn't agree with you more. Said him and his 4 buddies, all of in parentheses, who also work for me, went over and we had a bonding day. Smacked it around a couple of times. Great to get some swings in. Great food. Great entertainment. He talks about Lux Golf Bays in Franklin. Lux, L-U-X-E, luxgolfbays.com. That is luxgolfbays.com. Good stuff. I'm always glad when people get a hold of me and say, hey, something that you recommended works and works well, and that's Lux Golf Bays. luxgolfbays.com. Let's see here. What else do we have here for you? Scott says the projections for the Milwaukee Brewers horrible. Oh my God. It is. Now, do you mean that's the Fangraphs is completely off of their projection, or do you mean that for what's being projected is absolutely horrible? That's what I would love to know. So are you like poo-pooing the projections? Are you saying that oh my God, what the projections are for the Milwaukee Brewers is awful? This one's from Kenny. Kenny says, hey, how much do you think the shift helps Christian Yelich? Maybe some. I don't know that not having the shift is going to help a lot. I have not seen the numbers so far when it comes to not having the shift on in spring training. I know that they've been compiling this kind of stuff. Ben, have you seen anything other than the fact that the games are shorter, significantly shorter? I have not seen anything additional when it comes to what the shift or the pitch clock and such have meant for actual play on the field. Have you?
I can give you the eye test.
Go ahead.
So guys like Joey Gallo, who are super shifted, obviously when you change a rule, the teams are going to find ways to exploit it and find new advantages.
Right.
So instead, what they do is they move the center fielder behind the second baseman and just make a different shift, and then don't play with the left fielder. So it's different, but they're still kind of the same.
Right.
When it comes to that, it comes to the alignment overall. It's not as efficient.
Was it the Red Sox that did that?
Originally or on Gallo?
There was I blew past a headline that said loophole in the shift this past weekend.
It is the Red Sox, yes.
Is it the Red Sox that did that? Okay.
Yeah, because you have to have, I think, 2 guys on each side of second base with a foot in the dirt.
Okay.
But then they put their left fielder and put him right in between the second baseman and first baseman, where the old shift guy used to play in the outfield. And then, I mean, it's hilarious because the screenshot just shows left field without a soul in it.
Right.
But he can't hit it there.
By the way, some other news that the Atlanta Braves plan to stop the sale of season tickets to preserve the availability of single game tickets. First time in team history, season ticket sales have been cut off before the first game. The Braves plan to cut off the sale of season tickets coming up maybe next week. The team says it's on pace to approach the 2022 Truist Park record of more than 3.1 million in attendance for the first time since 2020 at Turner Field. It will be the Braves will have topped 3 million in fans visiting. The Braves finished fourth in the majors last season with their average of 38,461 fans. That's at Truist Park. The Braves say their April 6th home opener against San Diego and some other high-profile games already sell out and standing room only status. And after March 17th, fans who want to purchase season tickets for the 2024 campaign can sign up and be placed on a waiting list for fan priority. But the Atlanta Braves saying they're cutting off season ticket sales before the season gets underway. They're not going to do it because they're already approaching sellouts. Way too many sellouts, which is kind of a weird thing to think. If you're, and I get you want to create a buzz with some single game tickets available. Well, okay, it's different, but that's what they're talking about doing down in Atlanta, cutting off season ticket sales. 877-867-1670. You want to chime in, do it. This was from Paul listening to us in Menashe. Said, I'm excited. I do believe the Milwaukee Brewers have seated themselves directly on the fence. They brought in some talent, but affordable talent. I feel like Winker, Anderson, and Contreras. If we get 2 out of 3 of those to play well with better batting averages this year from Yelich and Adames, that could make the offense easier to watch and more competitive with our current pitching state. But the other side of the fence is if things go south, they will move Burns at the deadline. No doubt. Paul in Menashe. Paul, thanks for the email. By the way, Calvin Ridley has been reinstated, it looks like, after the gambling suspension, which we kind of figured. You know, it's a year. It's a year. Also, Red Sox star Justin Turner drilled in the face. If you haven't seen this during a spring training game, so violent it left him oozing blood all over home plate. So that came out. We were talking about the Boston Red Sox just moments ago, but Turner with the Red Sox going down with a smash in the face. And yeah, it looked violent. I saw it on one of the highlights on ESPN just a few minutes ago. And yes, Pro Football Focus also confirming Calvin Ridley is back, which again, you saw, what was it, years ago, Paul Hornung got suspended by the league for a year. Calvin Ridley, you kind of felt, now he's had some other things go on, but you kind of felt like he was going to get a year and then he'd be back. Also, the announcement that Orlando Brown, the big left tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs, will not be franchise tagged. They will not use the franchise tag on him. They're going to try to work out a deal, but he will then become a free agent if not. So there you go. What else? The Cowboys, we talked about you a little bit earlier. Tony Pollard getting the franchise tag. He's going to make just over $10 million a year this year. Nick says that I think the Brewers and the Packers are close, but no cigars. Doesn't matter who's under center for the Packers. They're a decent football team, but they will not be going to the postseason. And if they make it there, they're probably one and done. The Brewers are probably going to end up 3 to 5 games behind the Cardinals, not even vying for a wild card spot. I think the Brewers are done. This is going to be it of the decent run of pitching. It's a shame, too, because we keep talking about developing pitching in the minor league system. We finally get a couple of guys who we can really hang our hats on, and then we can't afford them. This is the sad state of affairs for the Milwaukee Brewers. Appreciate the email. Thanks very much. 877-867-1670. If you got something, bring it. We can talk a little Bucks basketball, talk some Badger basketball, talk some Marquette basketball. UWM basketball. And there's some, you know what? Here's something else. I got something for the haters. I don't normally go after the haters and all the time, but it's something for the haters. It's like lighten up. Okay? Lighten up. And I'll tell you what I'm talking about when we come back. Stay tuned. Got a whole lot more of the Bill Michaels Show next.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Can you smell it? Fresh cut green grass, a spring rain, and how about the soft wafting smoke coming from your grill? Now, isn't that the perfect picture? Wait a minute. Let me add one more thing. A filet, a New York strip, a thick cut pork chop, or how about a tomahawk ribeye? Now that's a picture. Schulze Family Beef, they can help you paint your warm weather masterpiece. Schulze can have all of that and a whole lot more delivered right to your doorstep. And all you have to do is go to SchulzeFamilyBeef.com. That's SCHOLZE FamilyBeef.com.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Michael Show continuing on. Here's something I didn't know today. Today is National Oreo Day. My buddy Justin just texted me a little while ago and said it, and then all of a sudden it pops up on my Quick Trip page. They're giving away Oreos today. How about that? Free pack of Oreos if you use your Quick Rewards card today. You got a Quick Rewards card, stop into Quick Trip. Get yourself some free Oreos. For some of you, that might be right up there with sex. So stop in and get some Oreos. I know golf for you is like right up there with sex, Ben. Oreos don't compare. I get that. Just an FYI.
Yeah, all I'm thinking about, Bill, right now is sleep, if I'm being completely honest.
Okay.
So, the brain isn't ventured as far as to when I'm going to eat.
Okay. Sleep and then maybe the arrival of your golf club?
Yeah, maybe that might be tomorrow. But I maybe got 2.5 hours last night.
Okay. Hey, by the way, speaking of your golf club, they know where they're at. They just have to deliver them, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. It's not like they don't know where they're okay. It's not like they don't know where they're at. They know where the clubs are at. They've got them physically in hand. They just now have to deliver them to you, correct?
Allegedly. Okay. That's what I was told. But it's American. Like, you can't trust them for these things. They're not trustworthy.
Okay. Nice. At least they know where they're at. At least there's hope. That's all that matters. At least there's hope. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. Give us a shout. We'd love to hear from you if you want to talk some Brewers baseball, what have you. However, I do have to address the haters in two different segments, both regarding basketball. So I saw that UW Milwaukee men's basketball program, they put out a post on Twitter, and it said sold out for the final home game. And I saw that there were just all these just snide comments about, well, you're at the Kalachi. And the Kalachi only holds a few thousand. We know that. It's not like it's a big mammoth complex. But look, you just give them credit. They're having a good season. Why hate? If maybe you're a Marquette fan, you're going, oh, no big deal. We got people selling out the Pfizer. Well, that's good. Feel good about your program. But considering where UWM was to where they're at now, what's the bigger turnaround? You kind of thought Marquette was going to be good. You didn't know what UWM was going to be. So look, can't we just all enjoy that we've got good basketball in the state of Wisconsin? Can we not just enjoy that? Right? Just enjoy that there's a good possibility, or at least a very real possibility, that come Selection Sunday, we've got 3 teams in the state that we could circle and say, we've got reasons to watch and follow and root for teams in the state of Wisconsin to advance. And maybe, just maybe, if God himself comes down, points his finger on the court in the proper direction, these 2 teams or 3 teams could end up facing each other at one point or another throughout the tournament. I'd be great with that. I'd be all fired up. That would be awesome. Does anybody remember what this state was like when George Carl got here? The Bucks became relevant. Suddenly, Bruce Pearl takes over the program that Bo Ryan stacked. Ryan's turned around. Final 4 run going with Marquette. Green Bay was pretty good at the time, but UW with Bruce Pearl goes on that Sweet 16 run. Do you remember what basketball was like in the state of Wisconsin at that time? Oh, my God. It was electric. I'd never seen television stations from Wausau and Eau Claire and such coming into the Fiserv or coming down to cover some of these teams. It was great. Everybody in the state was interested in it. It was a story. It was fun. So don't crap on it. Don't hate on it. Just say congratulations. You've got fans going to the game. At some point, maybe you start selling out the UWM Panther Arena. So there you go. The other thing for haters, did you see the way Giannis got the triple-double yesterday, Ben?
I did.
Where he just kind of tossed up a half a shot at the end of the game, and it fell back into his own hands, and that's considered technically a rebound, which gave him the extra rebound to give him a triple-double. And
I think it's smart.
Here's the thing. And again, it just, people are ripping him. Oh, what a joke play, what a junk play, and on and on and on. Giannis, first of all, Giannis is fun. Giannis is a fun, playful, big, giant kid, okay? No doubt about it. That's the reason everybody likes the guy. So for those that say he was doing this cheap, he was trying to get over on, it wasn't like he was breaking a record. He just got a triple-double. Who cares? And he did it fun-wise. Now, if he does it all the time, yeah, then maybe you have an issue with it. But how many times has this guy earned it? I mean, just flat out earned it. So he's not going to do it all the time. It's not going to become the thing. But just let the guy have fun. He's one of the, if you've watched him in different interviews lately, if you've, just, the guy is just a giant playful kid. He's just a good dude. He's just one of the good. He's not out brandishing weapons like Ja Morant. He's creating gym shoes for his son. He's getting 50 cheeseburgers over at Culver's. He's getting diapers for people in the area. The guy's just fun. He's a playful big kid. And people just had a problem with it. But it was a whole bunch of haters that came out after that. And I thought, okay. You need to address the haters, because the question is, why would you hate on that? I guess if you're a purist and it's one extra rebound that he shouldn't have gotten, okay, I can understand that. But beyond that, it's like, come on, man. Come on. No reason to hate. None at all.
Those are probably the same people that applaud Bill Russell for getting rebounds from firemen.
Yes.
Mail delivery men, things of that nature.
Right?
Carpenters.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
I'm joking.
I know.
By the way,
I know.
For all the people out there. Before I get hate DMs.
Yeah,
again.
you're going to get hate all over it doesn't matter. There's always people hating. So you're always going to get hate. So anyway, but I had to address that. I was watching that this morning and last night on mainly Twitter, but which is Twitter. It's where everybody goes to hate. But I just thought, come on, man. Come on. 877-867-1670. If you want to find us, feel free to go ahead and give us a shout. 877-867-1670. Hey, our friends out there at Buzzard Billy's, they got, now I know it's Buzzard Billy's, and I know that coming up, they've got St. Patrick's Day's right around the corner. There's still good Cajun food there, but I'm sure they're going to be doing it up just like everybody else in La Crosse. So when you're going to do your cabbage and such, and boy, they got some good red beans and such out there. Oh, so good. But when you're going to be out, you're going to be doing the corned beef and cabbage stuff. Swing into Buzzard Billy's. And even if you don't swing in for that, you can swing in for some really good food. Head upstairs to the Starlight Lounge. Get yourself, there's got to be some, you can get a grasshopper. That's green. Get a grasshopper martini. You're good to go. That's green for St. Patrick's Day. Hell yeah. Do that. Check out our friends at Buzzard Billy's. Great food, great people right there in downtown La Crosse. We're going to wrap it up next on the Bill Michaels Show.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Jeff, what was the final straw at home that had you call Pella?
I walked into my son's room and there was frost on the hardware on the inside of the house. My wife was getting upset with the drafts coming through the doors. That was it. Putting new windows and doors in your home is a big decision. With all the options that Pella has, everybody on your staff has done a great job of making a really difficult decision super simple. And I can't wait to have them in my house.
Order today and get 0% interest for 48 months. Visit PellaWI.com today.
Gaze into the crystal ball. What do you see? A win, perhaps? This March at Potawatomi Casino Hotel, find your fortune with a share of $500,000 in cash and prizes. Play with your club card, and each Thursday you could discover thousands in reward play, or up to $10,000 in cash. We predict great things for you. Find your fortune only at Potawatomi. Visit paysbig.com/fortune5. Must be 21 years old and a club member to play.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back to the program. Glad to have you. We were talking some Brewers baseball just before. We were also talking a little Giannis as he that and the haters, so to speak, as Giannis was dropping a little rebound to himself and getting the triple double, and the haters on UWM. Going back to the Brewers, though, Pack Attack says, I find your statistics interesting on Christian Yelich. I've been saying for over 2 years now that he's like Tiger Woods in his back injury. They both wind up and hit the ball a country mile. The back injuries have devastated their game. Now that he's bigger, he might be able to hit the ball a bit farther, maybe a few more home runs. Such a huge disappointment, though. So that's from number one Pack Attack. This one is from Derek and Cudahy. And Ben, this is directed to both of us. He says, hey guys, Yelich is done. I'll take the bet of 17 homers or below. He's been battling knee and core issues for a while now, and his juicer buddy is gone. This team is cheap, and so is their owner. He's been robbing us for years. The Brewers are 82 wins at best. Counsell gone after the season. They get rid of Burns for another group of nobodies. That's the way this team operates. Bet me or not, from Derek and Cudahy. Do we take that bet? 17. He's
done or 17.
He's taken 17 or less home runs. He's taken the Brewers at 82 wins or less, and Counsell's gone at the end of the year.
Oh, I think the 17 thing could happen, and Yelich still could have an okay year if he's the leadoff guy and sets the tone.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think there's any way Counsell's fired.
No, he's talking about leaving. I think. I don't think he means fired. I think he means leaving because Counsell wasn't did not commit at the end of the year or in spring training this year to the end of the season. He just said he's got some things that he wants to think about. Blah blah blah. And most of that's just his kids because his kids are in college baseball now.
Now he looks somewhat disheveled after games, though.
Yeah,
not a lot of stress. I would take the no on all of those things.
Okay. So you're believing that Yelich gets more than 17, the Brewers win more than 82,
Council stays after this season, and as he puts it, they get rid of Burns for another group of nobodies. So you're thinking they actually get a good deal for
The last one maybe could happen.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, listen, I'm optimistic for the regular season. I haven't said I think they'll actually hit in the playoffs. That's a different discussion. But I think they go back to what they were 2 years ago. That kind of team. 90-ish wins. Not the best team in baseball, but really a healthy playoff team. And hopefully they don't play like crap.
Let's do this, Derek. I will break it down into 4 parts. I'm going to say, boy, the Christian Yelich thing, man, at 17. I was thinking the 19 of Fangraphs. So, but I'll say that Yelich hits 18 this year, 18 or 19 this year. So I'll take that bet. I'll take that the Brewers win more than 82 games. I'll take the bet that Council is back next year. The Burns thing I won't take because I don't know what you would consider a bunch of nobodies. So that's up for conjecture. But the rest of that I'll take.
Does he get traded? Do you think?
I don't. Well, I don't, and I'm going to base this upon. I'm going to base it upon this: that I believe the Brewers are going to be within striking distance of the Cardinals, either leading or within a couple of games of the Cardinals. So if you would be trading Burns, you're in essence saying, unless you get some bombers, or some really good bats, and who knows what can happen in a very long baseball season. But unless you get that, you're not going to be trading Burns away again if you're in the midst of of possibly winning the division. You saw what happened. History would then repeat itself. You saw what happened last year when you traded away Hader, and everything went south. And we all looked at that trade and said that was the linchpin in all of this. You screwed your own ball club out of a season in which they probably could have went to the postseason. Even though their hitting was not great, you took away a part of the heart and soul of the team. And that's on you. If you do that again, you would consider this the management completely inept of this team. So you can't do that. So to me, I'm not going to do the bag of balls thing and the, nobody. I'm going to say that if you're out of it, yeah, go ahead and trade him. But if you're in it, I can't imagine the Brewers trading away Corbin Burns. I just can't. Can't imagine that happening. And you probably get more for him in the offseason if you can maybe even put together a 3-team deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there has to be a point where they just don't let these massive PR earthquakes hit them in a negative way.
Right.
Because it's been a year and a half of the worst PR you can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
With, I'm sure, like the Contreras trade. Like, there are good things going on, just vastly overshadowed by all the bad things.
Yeah.
I just can't see. They saw what happened with Hader. I don't know how they let themselves go through that same horrible cycle again, because the fans will stop showing up.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you lose faith, I mean, what do you got left? So, no, I would agree with you.
Expensive beer.
That's it. Nobody wants to, or a team that pay 12, 14, whatever it is per beer, or a mixed drink, which I can't even imagine because you got to fill out a credit app. That I get.
Well, some people have clubs, so they could go golf.
Well, there you go.
I can't.
You got to wait for your golf. So, do we have an update? Have you found out? They're what, in Charlotte?
They are, yeah. CLT.
They're in Charlotte. So you've got your golf clubs are there, and you're waiting to find out at what point in time they're actually going to be arriving at your house. That's what you're looking forward to.
I was told loosely tomorrow or the next day.
Okay.
There's a big we're doing a little simulator golf outing on Saturday.
Right.
With the Zone.
Yeah.
Downtown. Need my clubs for that. Might need my Crocs. Don't know. But there are other things in the bag that
nobody needs Crocs. I'm just telling you, there's no need for those.
I think you would be really surprised, pleasantly, if you were to give him a shot. It's only in certain settings. I played 36 holes a day on Friday and Saturday, and the best feeling of the day was putting on the Crocs after the round. Because your feet are tired.
Yeah,
take the shoes off.
You need a new life. Seriously. Just
so simple.
Okay, well, we're going to be hopeful for one, Ben Kenny. Can live with that.
There's also a towel in there that was a handout at a Phillies game when I was 9.
Yeah.
That's legitimately one of my prized possessions. and I can it might be more valuable to me than the clubs.
Right. That's from your childhood.
Can't let that get lost.
Yeah, that's
I was
from your
9.
childhood. Okay.
Well, I still have it. It's an incredible towel.
Mm-hmm. Is it like unbelievably absorbent? We talk like ShamWow type of towel, or what are we talking here?
No, they're just pictures of all my favorite players from when I was young. It's a cool towel, and I like it.
Okay. Well, there you go. That will wrap up today's program, by the way. What do we got coming up tomorrow, Ben? Anything?
Well, hopefully I'll sleep tonight.
Yeah, so you'll feel good tomorrow. Hopefully your golf clubs arrive.
Peter Bukowski will join the show.
I saw he was posting some stuff today. As a matter of fact, we'll talk about coming up tomorrow on the program. Maybe we'll hear more regarding Aaron Rodgers. Who knows? Let's wait and see what happens. Now that we know Derek Carr is off to the New Orleans Saints, so we'll see what happens there. All right. So we got plans. All right, until we're back at it again tomorrow, Ben, go home, get some sleep. Hopefully your clubs show up. Everybody else, go enjoy yourself tonight. We'll be back. We'll all reconvene tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning. We're a morning show.